Chapter 5:10. Snow lotuses swayed gently in the heavenly lake. A strange wave spread out, and a large amount of cold air swept out from the heaven lake. There was quite a bit of the heaven pond's energy mixed within. Although no one dared to get too close to the sword mark, they could still gather some of the heaven pond's energy from the periphery. It was not a wasted trip. The 12 petals of the snow lotus slowly unfurled, and Xianxia, who was inside, slowly opened her eyes. At that moment, she had completely absorbed the energy of the ice heart lotus and completely refined it. Her original frost body had also undergone an unprecedented transformation, advancing into a supreme body of ways. At this point, there was another supreme Daoist physique among the 3,000 physiques in the world. Xianxia walked down from the snow lotus. Her steps were light as she stepped on the surface of the heaven lake. The lake that had never frozen for countless years was frozen in an instant. The sages nearby could not help but gasp when they saw this. What a terrifying chill. This woman can actually freeze the water of the heaven lake. While the crowd was still in shock, Xianxia had already walked in front of Chu Kuangren. She bowed and said, "Sect Master, I have already completely refined the snow lotus. I feel that my strength has increased by a lot." Not bad. Chu Kuangren used his eye of revelation to check on his opponent's status. He discovered that the other party's strength was now comparable to a 7-step holy king, and he had become the strongest among the Daoists in one leap. Of course, this was only for the Daoists before they entered the Emperor's Road. If Nangong Huang and the others had other opportunities, they might have made great progress. Xianxia looked at the snow lotus beside her. With a thought, the snow lotus rapidly shrank and turned into a white light that fused into her palm. A snow lotus mark appeared on the back of her hand. This frozen snowy lotus is a rare treasure. Not only can it enhance your Daoist physique, but it's also a frost attribute treasure that can amplify your frost chi. It can be used both offensively and defensively. If you use it well, it won't be any weaker than an emperor weapon. Chu Kuangren chuckled. Xianxia was also very happy. The opportunity that she had obtained this time was too great. "Sect leader, can we leave now?" Xianxia looked around. She had already obtained the biggest opportunity of fortune in the heavenly lake, so Chu Kuangren probably would not be interested in the rest. "There's no hurry." Chu Kuangren chuckled. "Let's wait a little longer." He seemed to be waiting for someone. Suddenly, his expression changed and he looked at the clouds in the distance. "They're here." The snowstorm in the distance suddenly intensified. Streaks of light flew over, and a terrifying aura instantly enveloped the entire Tianqi mountain. It was the aura of a quasi-emperor. Furthermore, it was not an ordinary quasi-emperor aura. This kind of aura was at the peak of quasi-emperors. "You're not leaving? Are you waiting for us?" A cold voice descended from the clouds, filled with a piercingly cold, killing intent. A few figures slowly descended. The moment he landed, a majestic aura poured out like a flood, and the entire Tianqi mountain couldn't help but shake a few times. The Sima family's patriarch. And that burly man, with such a domineering aura, he must be the Snow Lion race's leader. There's also the Snow Spider clan's patriarch and the Gu clan's patriarch. They're here as well. Heavens! The leaders of the ancient orthodoxies are all here at the Seraphic Pond Mountain. Are they here to deal with this young man together? Isn't this a little too grand? What did this young man do? The sages knew that a huge battle was about to break out, so they couldn't help but retreat tens of miles. They looked curiously in the direction of the Tianqi mountain. How dare an outsider Skypride act so arrogantly in the emperor's path? "I have to say, you're very foolish." A middle-aged man with a green longsword at his waist looked at Chu Kuangren and said. He was the Sima family's patriarch. He was also a famous sword Dao cultivator in the emperor's path. "Tell me, how do you want to die?" The person who spoke was the burly man next to the Sima family's patriarch. This burly man had thick white fur all over his body, and there was a domineering aura in his eyes. This person was the Snow Lion race's patriarch. I want to seal him in my spider web and slowly suck his blood essence dry. Such a good-looking man, his blood essence must be delicious too. A beautiful woman licked her lips with a fiery look in her eyes. She was the Snow Spider clan's patriarch, and her favorite thing was to suck the blood essence of good-looking men. However, even though she had seen countless good-looking men over the years, it was still her first time seeing someone of Chu Kuangren's caliber. Looks aside, his extraordinary aura was the most attractive thing about him. Beside the Snow Spider clan's patriarch, a middle-aged man holding a black spear did not say a word. However, he looked at Chu Kuangren as if he was looking at a dead man. That man was the Gu family's patriarch. The rulers of the four great ancient orthodoxies had personally arrived, and their terrifying boundary emperor aura enveloped the entire place. In the face of such a lineup, not many people in the entire emperor's path could resist, let alone the younger generation. Even the forbidden sky prides could not escape unscathed. Sect leader, what should we do now? Shang Qingxua looked at the four boundary emperors in front of her with a solemn look in her eyes. Although she had obtained the icy lotus and improved tremendously, she was still not strong enough to face a boundary emperor. Not to mention a top-notch boundary emperor. Don't worry, it's just 4 boundary emperors. It's no big deal. Chu Kuangren chuckled. Back when the demonic realm descended, Chu Kuangren was not afraid of facing the clones of the 7 great demonic emperors, let alone a few boundary emperors. Chu Kuangren could dominate the outside world. But in the emperor's path, he could still dominate everything. That was his path to invincibility. Chu Kuangren acted casually, but the boundary emperors in front of him raised their eyebrows in displeasure. I'd like to see what kind of ability you have to say something like that. The Sima clan head snorted and attacked first. With a slash of the long sword at his waist, a 1,000-meter-long silver-white sword ray was unleashed. The sword ray was accompanied by a blizzard that froze one's heart. More than half of the heavenly lake was frozen by that cold sword chi. Upon seeing that, Chu Kuangren unsheathed the descendant self-sword at his waist. With a gentle slash in the air, a purple sword ray was unleashed. The sword-based Daoist rhyme that surrounded it instantly suppressed the Sima clan head. Amidst the explosion, the Sima clan head was forced back a few hundred meters by that sword ray. He was shocked. This power, this aura. The exquisite 9 orifices sword heart. Oh, you can recognize the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart even before my Daoist physique transformation appeared. You're quite sharp. In the past, I've sparred with the Daoist of the sword tribe. He too possessed the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart. I can't believe there are 2 of them in the same generation. The Sima clan head had a solemn look in his eyes. The exquisite 9 orifices sword heart could greatly enhance one's sword Dao, and it also had a suppressive effect on other sword cultivators. Chu Kuangren's terrifying strength, coupled with his Daoist physique, made the Sima clan head feel troubled. Besides, he had a feeling that Chu Kuangren's exquisite 9 orifices sword heart was even more terrifying than the Daoist of the sword tribe. At least, he did not feel such pressure when he faced the Daoist of the sword tribe. So what if it's the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart? He's offended our 4 orthodoxies today. He won't walk out of the heavenly lake alive. Chapter 5:11. I don't care if he has the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart or not. Since he has offended our orthodoxies, he must die here. The Snow Lion tribe leader let out a low growl and unleashed his boundary emperor aura. A white lion silhouette that was formed from spiritual power charged towards Chu Kuangren in a domineering manner. Beast King's Fury. That was the Snow Lion tribe's emperor technique, and it was much more powerful than the White Lion's Heart technique that was cast by the Snow Lion tribe leader. As a boundary emperor, why are you using someone else's emperor technique? Where is your Dao? Chu Kuangren said calmly. He then raised his hand and gathered the spiritual power of the heavens and earth before he pointed a finger at the white lion silhouette. It was the emperor technique, heart-piercing finger. The heart-piercing finger had struck the Daoist core. The Snow Lion tribe leader's expression changed, and his mind froze for a moment. The strength of the white lion's silhouette was also greatly weakened. By the time he recovered, Chu Kuangren's heart-piercing finger was already in front of him. He roared, and his already sturdy body suddenly grew in size. A terrifying ferocious chi surged out from his body. He threw a punch at the finger attack. However, that powerful force still sent him flying dozens of feet away. His arm trembled and blood flowed non-stop, and his bones were almost broken. I can't believe that a finger attack could cause such damage to my physical body. The Snow Lion tribe leader's boundary emperor body was very strong. It was a body that was specially cultivated, so it was enough to fight against a boundary emperor. This person's combat strength is so strong that we can't win against him alone. Let's attack together, the Sima clan head said. Before he came, he thought that this was a sure win, but now it seemed that things had gone beyond his expectations. Who would have thought that a young Heaven's Prideling would be able to suppress a quasi-emperor so easily? Attack! The Gu clan head also attacked. The spear in his hand streaked across the sky like a meteor, and a cold spear ray instantly locked onto Chu Kuangren. On the other hand, the Snow Spider tribe leader retreated dozens of feet away. As she raised her arm, spider webs spread out from her hand and quickly interweaved into a large web in the void. When the spear ray arrived, Chu Kuangren slashed out with his descendant self-sword. The sword clanged against the spear, producing a loud clanging sound. A majestic force with two completely different Daoist rhymes gushed out. The frozen surface of the heavenly lake instantly exploded, and countless ice shards swept in all directions like a storm. The perennial snow-covered heavenly lake also caused avalanches. Is that all your spear can do? The descendant self-sword in Chu Kuangren's hand vibrated, and an even more majestic sword chi gushed out from the blade. The Gu family's family head only felt an incomparably sharp energy rushing towards him. Retreat! The Gu family's patriarch's expression changed, and he retreated rapidly. As he retreated, a streak of sword chi swept past him and slashed into a snowy mountain in the distance. The Emperor self-wanged to Tutu and said Ant, and the Emperor's T-sect. Emperor Heavenly Spirit's snow test was piercing Emperor's technique. The Tianqi mountain, which had snowstorms all year round, actually had a moment of clear weather. Inescapable net. At that moment, the Snow Spider tribe leader had already formed a giant web using her spiritual power and was about to engulf Chu Kuangren. The Snow Spider tribe's leader had formed a huge net with her spiritual power and was about to engulf Chu Kuangren. Break! Chu Kuangren yelled, and a sword chi slashed upwards. The sword chi landed on the huge net and suddenly exploded, turning into millions of fine sword chi. The huge net that blotted out the sky was immediately torn into pieces. Didn't you want to see my Dao? Then I'll show you. At that moment, the Snow Lion tribe leader roared as he charged towards Chu Kuangren. An extremely violent aura emanated from his body, and the blood and chi in his body were boiling. Every breath he exhaled was scorching hot, like a raging flame. The snow and wind that landed on his body melted away. He no longer looked like a snow lion, but a raging flaming lion. With every step he took, the entire Heavenly Lake Mountain shook. He took a total of 7 steps, and Heavenly Lake Mountain shook 7 times. In those 7 steps, he had crossed a few kilometers and arrived before Chu Kuangren. He then unleashed a punch. 7 steps killing fist. That punch caused the air to explode, and white cracks appeared in the void. An extremely powerful pressure instantly shrouded Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren did not retreat. Instead, he lowered his body into a horse stance and unleashed a punch of his own. He did not use any spiritual power in that punch. Instead, he purely used his supreme sage physique to attack. The 2 fists, one big and one small, collided with each other. The wind created by the fists formed an incomparably terrifying storm that swept out. Everything in the surroundings was destroyed. The sages who were watching from afar also felt the strong storm and activated their spiritual power to resist it. They were all amazed. The place where Chu Kuangren and the Snow Lion tribe's leader collided instantly caved in, and a huge crack appeared in the middle of Heavenly Lake Mountain as if it was about to split into two halves. How can this guy's physical body? The Snow Lion tribe's leader stared at Chu Kuangren with an indescribable shock in his eyes. He could clearly feel that Chu Kuangren did not use any spiritual power at all. All he used was pure physical strength. However, how could a sage's physical body be so terrifying? Is this your Dao? That's all you've got? Chu Kuangren said all of a sudden. That seemingly skinny and small body of his actually erupted with an incomparably violent surge of energy. Break. Not only did Chu Kuangren use his Supreme Sage physique this time, but he also used his Supreme Sage level spiritual power as well. Terrifying energy gushed out like a torrent, and the bones in the Snow Lion tribe's leader's arm cracked and pierced through his flesh. Chu Kuangren's punch landed squarely on his chest. Boom! With a loud bang, the Snow Lion tribe's leader spat out a mouthful of blood mixed with minced meat. His chest caved in on the spot, and many of his bones were broken. His entire body flew out like a cannonball and landed on the ground. Just one move was enough to inflict serious damage on him. D****. The Snow Lion tribe's leader supported himself with both hands, wanting to continue fighting. However, a pale yellow rune condensed above him and turned into the shadow of a giant mountain. It then fell and pressed him to the ground. It was the mountain rune. Condensing the chi of the mountains and rivers for one's own use was similar to the human mountain stamp that Chu Kuangren had previously mastered. However, one was a technique, while the other was a rune. D****. The Snow Lion tribe's leader's expression changed. If he was at his peak, he could still break it. However, now that he had been heavily injured by Chu Kuangren's punch, it was extremely difficult for him to break the rune. A cat should just lie on the ground and listen to orders. Chu Kuangren said calmly, comparing the Snow Lion tribe's leader to a harmless kitten. That made the Snow Lion tribe's leader so angry that his eyes turned red. Not far away, the Snow Spider tribe's leader and the Gu clan's leader looked extremely grim. Obviously, the combat strength that Chu Kuangren had displayed was far beyond their imagination. How can such a sky pride be born in the outside world? Even the forbidden sky prides are not as powerful as this guy. How terrifying! At that moment, a majestic emperor's aura suddenly appeared high up in the sky. Chapter 5:12. High up in the sky, the Sima clan head suddenly took out a golden longsword. Various runes were engraved on the sword, and a majestic aura emanated from it. This is the Emperor's aura. It's an Emperor weapon. Chu Kuangren narrowed his eyes. Brat, I'll show you the power of my Sima clan's Emperor weapon. The Sima clan head yelled as he swung the long sword in his hand. A beam of golden sword chi whizzed out like a giant golden dragon and swooped down towards Chu Kuangren. Wherever it went, the void cracked like a mirror, and streaks of white patterns spread out. You make it sound like I don't have an emperor weapon, Chu Kuangren said. He then raised his hand and a golden halberd appeared. It was the emperor weapon, the Empyrean Neptune's halberd. Chu Kuangren struck with his halberd, and it was like a raging ocean that shook the heavens and earth. The golden sword ray collided with the majestic torrential force. The collision of the two emperor weapons was like 100,000 mountains crashing into each other. The terrifying impact caused the entire seraphic lake to crumble. The sages who were watching from the outside were pushed back dozens of kilometers by the terrifying impact as they looked in the direction of the seraphic lake in horror. This energy is the collision of the emperor weapons. F***ck that guy has an emperor weapon too. Even the ancient orthodoxies and ancient orthodoxies don't have many sovereign weapons. Moreover, those are the foundation of the orthodoxies. This guy actually has a sovereign weapon in his hands. How rich is the orthodoxies behind him? They actually let their chosen one carry a sovereign weapon? The collision of the emperor weapons is too powerful. Don't get too close. The collision of the two emperor weapons was extremely powerful. However, Chu Kuangren was clearly stronger than the Sima clan head, and the emperor weapon that he could unleash was also more powerful. The torrential force from the Empyrean Neptune's halberd forcefully broke through the golden sword ray and landed on the Sima clan head's body. The Sima clan head's expression changed. Although he was a boundary emperor, he was still severely injured by the emperor weapon's power. He was sent flying with blood spewing from his mouth. The golden imperial armament in his hand flew out of his hand. Oh no! The Sima clan head's expression changed slightly as he tried to summon the emperor weapon back. However, right at this moment, a formless power of thought suddenly enveloped the imperial armament. The Sima family head summoning was simply useless. However, Chu Kuangren's figure flashed and reappeared in front of the emperor weapon. He then reached out his hand and grabbed it. As if it was resisting Chu Kuangren, the emperor weapon let out a dazzling golden sword ray that buzzed and trembled in Chu Kuangren's hand. Oh, you're quite stubborn. Surrender. Chu Kuangren let out a low growl as the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart's aura erupted along with the supreme sage's spiritual power. Soon, the imperial armament began to calm down. It no longer resisted. How could this be? Sima family head's expression changed in an instant. He felt that his connection with the sovereign weapon had been severed in an instant. Looks like you haven't gained the recognition of this emperor weapon. You've only refined it a little, Chu Kuangren said. Indeed. If the Sima clans had really managed to refine this emperor weapon, Chu Kuangren would not be able to subdue this emperor weapon even if he possessed the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart. The only explanation was that the Sima clan's head did not really refine this emperor weapon. However, it was not surprising. Emperor weapons were stubborn and would not be easily refined. A cultivator who did not gain the recognition of an emperor weapon could never become its true master. At most, he would only have the right to use it. D***mn it. The Sima clan's head glared at Chu Kuangren with hatred. The exquisite 9 orifices sword heart's advantage in swordsmanship was just too great. Especially when Chu Kuangren had unleashed the full potential of his Daoist physique to subdue an emperor weapon in such a short time. Now that the Sima clan had lost their emperor weapon, it was a huge loss for them. Let's go. The Gu clan's head made up his mind and turned to leave. Chu Kuangren was just too strong. Even with the 4 of them attacking him together, they could not gain the upper hand at all. Not only that, but the Snow Lion clan's leader was also severely injured. Now that Chu Kuangren still had an emperor weapon, it was even harder for them to gain the upper hand. If they did not leave now, they might even lose their lives here. At that thought, other than the Gu clan's head, even the Snow Spider clan's leader turned pale and ran away in fear. As for the Snow Lion clan's leader, he was still pinned to the ground by Chu Kuangren's Daoist mountain rune, unable to move. F***ck me. These B** stards did not even bring him along when they escaped. You want to leave now? Aren't you indulging in fantasy? Chu Kuangren chuckled. With a lift of his arm, an incredibly mysterious sword-based Daoist rhyme spread out. That Daoist rhyme shrouded in all directions, and 12 long pillars of sword chi suddenly formed between the heavens and the earth. A wave of terrifying sword chi instantly sealed off the space around them. This is the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart's Daoist physique transformation, 9 heaven sword prison. The Sima clan's head said solemnly. D***mn it, break. The Gu clan's head grabbed his spear and stabbed it into the void. The terrifying spear chi tore through the void like a dragon. Amidst the explosion, the spear chi landed on the void and instantly broke through the sword chi's seal. He tore a hole in the sword chi that filled the sky. It's a success. The Gu clan's head was delighted. However, at that moment, suddenly, a silver-white rune fell from the sky. An even more powerful sealing force erupted and sealed off the entire space. The Gu clan's head's body could not help but be frozen in midair. In that moment, the 9 heaven sword prison's opening was sealed again by the sword chi. I've said it before. It's too late for you to leave now. Chu Kuangren's voice rang in the Gu clan's head's ears. Then, a purple sword light suddenly erupted and completely engulfed him. Not long after, the crowd saw the Gu clan's head's body explode into a cloud of blood mist in the air. An ancient orthodoxy leader had fallen. That scene deeply shocked every cultivator at the scene. Run, run. After the Snow Spider clan's head broke through the spatial seal, she desperately tried to escape into the distance. However, just like the Gu clan's head, she could not escape at all. Chu Kuangren's mind power spread out and formed runic swords in the void, sealing off the Snow Spider clan's head's escape route. At that moment, Chu Kuangren had already dashed behind her. Don't come any closer. Sensing the chill that made her hair stand on end, the Snow Spider clan's head screamed in fear and transformed into her true form. Her originally beautiful skin was instantly shattered and turned into a gigantic spider with 8 arms covered in white fur. The spider let out a roar and waved its 2 forelimbs at Chu Kuangren. Die! Chu Kuangren held the Descendant Self sword and activated the heaven-slaying sword-drawing technique. A dazzling sword ray descended from the sky and cut off the Snow Spider clan's head's forelimbs before landing on her body. The gigantic body was instantly split into 2 by the sword chi. A large amount of thick blood gushed out and dyed the snowy ground red. The Snow Spider clan's head was dead. There are still 2 left. Chu Kuangren looked at the Snow Lion clan's head, who was pinned on the ground. With a thought, a gigantic runic sword suddenly formed above him. The runic sword fell to the ground like a meteor and ruthlessly pierced through the Snow Lion clan's head. The already heavily injured Snow Lion clan's head could not resist at all and died on the spot. Before the crowd could react, 3 of the leaders of the 4 great orthodoxies had already fallen. At that moment, all the onlookers around Sky Lake Mountain looked at Chu Kuangren in disbelief and awe. Chapter 5:13. You're the only one left. Chu Kuangren looked at the Sima clan head and said, "Wait a minute. The Sima clan is on good terms with the swordsmen. If you kill me, the swordsmen will not let you off easily." The Sima clan head said loudly, wanting to use the swordsman's power to suppress Chu Kuangren. However, when Chu Kuangren heard the word swordsman, he sneered. "Swordsman? What do you think will happen if the swordsman's Daoist and I meet?" At that, the Sima clan head was speechless. Chu Kuangren possessed the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart, and the swordsman's Daoist also possessed the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart physique. Based on the swordsman's Daoist's personality, he would never allow anyone to have the same qualifications as him. If these 2 met, a battle was bound to break out. Chu Kuangren was destined to become the swordsman's enemy. If that was the case, why should he care about the Sima clan head's threat? At that thought, the Sima clan head's face was filled with fear. Run! Since his threat was useless, the Sima clan head could not care less anymore and immediately fled. However, even the 3 boundary emperors in front of him could not escape death, let alone him. A spatial rune descended from the sky and instantly landed on the Sima clan head. At that moment, the Sima clan head's body was frozen in midair. Then, a dazzling purple sword ray rushed towards him. The Sima clan head could not resist at all and was instantly torn in half by the sword chi, dying on the spot. At that point, none of the 4 boundary emperors were spared. Outside Seraphic Pond Mountain, it was dead silent. Everyone looked at Chu Kuangren with disbelief and awe. This battle was enough to make Chu Kuangren famous in the Emperor's path. Why do I feel that this person's combat strength is even more terrifying than the Forbidden Sky Pride's? Yeah, from now on, the Emperor's path will have another demonic genius. I wonder who will be the one to claim the throne in the end. Outside Seraphic Pond Mountain, the sages discussed among themselves. After Chu Kuangren had killed the 4 boundary emperors, he kept their yin and yang rings. With a thought, he found a lot of good things inside. Other than the Sima clan head, who had given him a monarch weapon, the leaders of the other orthodoxies had also given him quite a lot of spiritual source stones. In total, these spiritual source stones weighed a few thousand jin, which was equivalent to hundreds of billions of high-grade spirit stones. In the outside world, many orthodoxies wouldn't even dare to think about this. Indeed, these ancient orthodoxies are truly filthy rich. Chu Kuangren licked his lips as his eyes gleamed. At the side, Shang Qingshue's gaze was a little strange as she said, "Sect leader, did you purposely let the people from the four orthodoxies go just now and lure the leaders of the four orthodoxies here? That way, you'll be able to obtain more treasures, right? What did you say? Do I look like such a black-bellied person to you?" Chu Kuangren said nonchalantly as he kept the items away. "Absolutely." Shang Qingxue thought to herself. "All right, let's go." Chu Kuangren cleared his mind and left the Sky Lake Mountain. In an ancestral hall of the Sima clan. Wooden tablets were hung in the ancestral hall, and each tablet represented a member of the Sima clan. However, today, the wooden tablet that was hung at the highest point suddenly exploded. A disciple who was guarding the ancestral hall was shocked when he saw the flying wooden splinters. The clan head's wooden tablet has shattered. Something's happened to the clan head. The disciple was so shocked that his face turned pale. He immediately rushed out of the ancestral hall to report the incident. Not long after, a few extremely powerful boundary emperor auras were emitted from the depths of the Sima clan. These people were the strong cultivators of the older generation of the Sima clan. Who is it? Who dares to kill the Sima clan head? The Sky Lake Mountain. Our clan head went to Sky Lake Mountain to deal with an outsider Sky Pride, but how did he die so suddenly? How can an outsider Sky Pride do something like this? Investigate. Go and find out for me. The Boundary Emperor's voice reverberated throughout the hall. Meanwhile, the Sima clan's intelligence department quickly got to work and investigated everything that happened at Sky Lake Mountain. According to the Wang clan's fallen Sky Pride, Wang Tianteng, this person's name is Chu Kuangren. He came from the outside world and his combat strength is extremely terrifying. This person can kill a boundary emperor, so he's definitely a forbidden Sky Pride. He even has an emperor weapon. Not only that, but he also took our Sima clan's emperor weapon. The exquisite 9 orifices sword heart. I can't believe there's another exquisite 9 orifices sword heart besides Jian Daozi. What should we do now? The boundary emperors discussed countermeasures. Judging from the combat strength that Chu Kuangren had displayed, he was no longer someone that an ordinary boundary emperor could handle. Moreover, he even had an emperor weapon. Even if the Sima clan was an ancient orthodoxy with a strong foundation, they would still have to pay a heavy price to deal with such an existence. The Sima clan's Sky Pride was gone, their clan head was gone, and their emperor weapon was gone. If they were to suffer any more losses, even an ancient orthodoxy would not be able to withstand it. However, it was impossible for them to give up on dealing with Chu Kuangren just like that. How could they let go of such a huge grudge just like that? Send a message to the swordsman clan and tell them that we have information about Chu Kuangren. I'm afraid Jian Daozi won't be able to sit still anymore. One of the boundary emperors said. The others' eyes lit up when they heard that. It was not a bad idea to let the swordsman clan deal with Chu Kuangren. Alright, let the swordsman clan deal with Chu Kuangren while we assist from the sidelines. We'll find an opportunity to take back the emperor weapon. After the boundary emperors finished their discussion, they sent a message to the swordsman clan. A day later, hundreds of millions of kilometers away. In the swordsman clan's territory. The swordsman clan leader was handling some internal affairs. However, at that moment, a golden sword ray flew from afar and landed in front of him, turning into a small golden sword. Oh, it's a message from the Sima clan. The Sima clan and the swordsman clan were separated by hundreds of millions of kilometers, but both of them were experts in swordsmanship, so they often interacted with each other. Strictly speaking, the Sima clan was still considered a subsidiary force of the swordsman clan. Due to the distance between the two clans, ordinary communication compasses could not be used. Hence, both clans had a special method of communication. The swordsman clan leader held the small golden sword in his hand, and a message instantly gushed out. The swordsman clan leader absorbed the message for a while. A strange look appeared in his eyes. The exquisite 9 orifices sword heart, the ability to kill a boundary emperor, and an emperor weapon. I can't believe there's someone like that among the sky prides of the outside world. He then sent the message about Chu Kuangren to Jian Daozi. Not long after, a figure flew over. It was a young man with sharp eyebrows and bright eyes. His figure was a little illusory, and it seemed like he was just a wisp of spiritual thought. This person has a grudge against me. The sacred green glaze lamp that I want is in his hands. I can't let this person live. Jian Daozi uttered the last 3 words with a murderous intent. The swordsman clan leader smirked. What a pity. It would be great if the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart could be used by the swordsman clan. In this world, the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart is all that is needed. The pinnacle of swordsmanship can only belong to me. Jian Daozi's figure gradually disappeared after he finished speaking. The swordsman clan leader smiled and said to the void, "Where are the shadow swordsmen?" Whoosh, whoosh, several pitch-black shadows came from all directions and turned into 3 mysterious swordsmen in black robes. The shadow swordsmen were the most mysterious troop of the swordsman clan. Their main function was assassination. Chapter 5:14. The shadow swordsmen were a hidden troop of the swordsman tribe. This troop only had one mission, and that was to assassinate cultivators or skyprides from other forces who posed a threat to the swordsmen. There were 3 shadow swordsmen summoned by the swordsman tribe leader this time, and each one of them was a top-notch expert. Your target is Chu Kuangren. He's strong enough to slay a boundary emperor. I don't care how you do it, but kill him, bring back his green glazed magic lamp, and hand it over to Jian Daozi, the swordsman tribe leader said. Yes. Upon receiving the order, the 3 of them turned into a black shadow and disappeared on the spot. After the 3 shadow swordsmen left, they arrived at a dense forest. What do you guys want? One of the sword guards took off his hood, revealing an old face. His figure was emaciated, and his eyes were deeply sunken. He looked extremely sinister. This person was called the Grudge Sword Guardsman, and he was considered a top-notch expert even among the shadow swordsmen. His strength was comparable to the rulers of some ancient orthodoxies. A person like him would be an honored guest of any orthodoxy no matter where he went, yet he was only a member of the shadow swordsmen. One could only imagine how terrifying the swordsmen were. In the past, we swordsmen have always fought our own battles, and this time is no exception. Let's kill Chu Kuangren on our own. Another sword guardsman said. His voice was calm and steady. Chu Kuangren can slay a boundary emperor. Mountain sword guardsman, are you really confident? The Grudge sword guardsman asked curiously. Even if I can't kill him, I'm confident that I can escape unscathed. This mountain sword guardsman was very confident in his own strength. Besides, he was also plotting something. Since Chu Kuangren possessed the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart, if he could kill him, he would definitely be rewarded by the swordsman, and the benefits he would reap would be immense. He was not willing to share this credit with anyone else. Besides, the swordsman tribe leader had said that he only wanted the green glazed magic lamp. As for the other items, he did not mention them. In other words, the sword guardsman was free to do whatever he wanted with Chu Kuangren. How many treasures would a person who had killed a few ancient orthodoxies have? Just the amount of spiritual sources was enough to tempt anyone. Similarly, he also wanted to monopolize this benefit. If that's the case, then let's rely on our own abilities. The resentful sword guard had similar thoughts as the mountain sword guard. Then, the 2 of them looked at the last sword guard. Mystic sword guard, what do you want to do? Seniors, you've been in the shadow sword guard for a much longer time than me, and you're also more experienced than me. Let's do as you say. It was a woman's voice, with a hint of gentleness. One couldn't help but be curious about exactly what sort of peerless beauty a woman with such a voice was. Heh, Phantom Sword Guard, you must be joking. With your talent, you will definitely be stronger than us in the future. Joining the Shadow Sword Guard is just a form of training. However, since you've said so, we'll make the first move. If we fail, we'll discuss a countermeasure. Okay. The Mystic Blade Guard nodded. Then, the Mountain Sword Guard and the Grudge Sword Guard disappeared. The remaining mace sword guards took off their hoods, revealing a charming and beautiful face. Her skin was delicate, her facial features were exquisite, and she had beautiful eyebrows. In particular, her pair of watery eyes carried a faintly discernible sense of gentleness. Both of you want to monopolize the credit? That's fine too. I'll let you two test Chu Kuangren's strength first. At that thought, the mace sword guard's eyes flashed coldly. Chu Kuangren, there can only be one exquisite 9 orifices sword heart in this world, and that's Sir Daozi. Anyone who stands in the way of Sir Daozi's ascension to the pinnacle of sword Dao must die. Very few people in the swordsmen knew that this mace sword guard was Jian Daozi's passionate admirer. For Jian Daozi, she was willing to do anything. Originally, with her talent, she was considered one of the top sky prides in the swordsmen, second only to Jian Daozi. But for Jian Daozi's sake, she was willing to give up all of the glory that a chosen could enjoy. Instead, she threw herself into the darkness and became a shadow sword guard. She did everything she could for Jian Daozi, and helped him eradicate any and all chosen who might pose a threat to him. They say that the shadow sword guard is a sword in the hands of the swordsman, and I'm willing to become the sharpest sword in Sir Daozi's hands. I'll eliminate everything for him. The mace sword guard murmured before her figure turned into a black shadow and instantly disappeared. Sect leader, is there any news? Inside a tea house, Shang Qingxue was asking Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren shook his head and said, "No, I still can't contact anyone. Then we can only go to the Emperor Mountain. That's the end of the Emperor's Road, where all the sky prides will go." Shang Qingxue said. Not bad. Chu Kuangren nodded. He looked at the teacup in his hand and shouted, "Waiter, give me another cup of tea." "Sure thing." A waiter walked up and refilled Chu Kuangren's tea. "Are you two heading to 7-String City?" 7-String City? What does that mean? Chu Kuangren asked curiously. Don't you two know? Recently, an emperor weapon Guqin was discovered in 7-String City. A few great orthodoxies have been fighting over it, but no one has been able to make the Guqin recognize them as its master. Hence, they've held a banquet of 10,000 Guqin and invited all the Guqin masters in the world to see who's fated to gain the Guqin's recognition. The waiter had already refilled their teacups. Chu Kuangren's interest was piqued. An emperor weapon Guqin? That's right. Rumor has it that when this Guqin first appeared, dark clouds covered the sun, lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled for 3 days and 3 nights. That's really interesting. Chu Kuangren's interest was piqued. 7-String City? That's worth a visit. Waiter, may I know which way to 7-String City? Just head south from here. You can also take an immortal boat to a nearby city. The guests I've received these past few days are all going to 7 Flux City, so I thought the two of you were also going there, the waiter said with a smile, then left. Guqin. Sect leader, I remember you know how to play the Guqin, right? I know a thing or two. Chu Kuangren nodded. He knew the Emperor technique, the 8 celestial demonic chords. As for his level in the Guqin Dao, it was just a so-so. There were not many people in Firmament Star who could compare to him. Let's finish this cup of tea and make a trip to 7-String City. Chu Kuangren thought. Suddenly, he raised his eyebrows as he sensed a strange fluctuation in the air. Not far away from him, a figure in a black robe whose face could not be seen was slowly walking towards him. With every step this person took, the atmosphere became more solemn. By the time he arrived in front of Chu Kuangren, the surrounding air had become extremely heavy. Everyone else in the tea house was already lying on the ground, staring at the black-robed figure in horror. You're Chu Kuangren? The black-robed figure came before Chu Kuangren and asked. You already know the answer. Chu Kuangren calmly picked up his teacup and took a sip. Looks like you found the right person. I'm the Sword Tribe's Mountain Sword Guard. I'm here to kill you. Chapter 5:15. I'm the Mountain Sword Sentinel of the Swordsman Tribe. I'm here to kill you. As soon as the word "kill you" was uttered, an earth-shattering murderous intent enveloped a 10-kilometer radius. Some of the cultivators in the tea house could not withstand the murderous intent and fainted one after another. Chu Kuangren, on the other hand, sat still as he looked at the black-robed man before him. Activating his eye of revelation, he had a good grasp of the man's strength and background. I heard that there's a troop within the swordsman tribe called the Shadow Swordsmen who specialize in all kinds of assassinations. However, how can you walk up to your target in broad daylight and yell about killing him be considered an assassination? Are you a peerless expert, or are you out of your mind? Kill me? Heh, I don't think you're here to kill me. You're here to die. Chu Kuangren said calmly. The mountain sword sentinel did not say a word and immediately attacked. A pitch-black broadsword that looked like half a door appeared in his hand. As soon as the broadsword appeared, a majestic sword chi instantly erupted, shattering the table in front of Chu Kuangren and Shang Qingxue. Sword chi swirled around Chu Kuangren's body, forming an invisible barrier that blocked off all the incoming sword chi. You do have some cultivation. The mountain sword sentinel's eyes lit up as he unleashed another slash. That slash was extremely aggressive. Apart from spiritual power, it also contained an incredibly powerful mountain river earth chi that rushed towards Chu Kuangren. However, Chu Kuangren was still calm in the face of such power. Trying to kill me just like that? What a joke. The descendant's self-sword at his waist revealed half of its blade, and an incredibly cold purple sword ray shot out. The terrifying sword ray tore through the oncoming mountain river sword chi. The mountain sword sentinel used the broadsword in his hand as a shield and blocked the attack. The purple sword chi instantly unleashed an incredibly powerful force that instantly sent his opponent flying dozens of kilometers away, crashing into a mountain in the distance. Boom! Clouds of dust rose from the mountain range. The heavy aura that shrouded the entire area also dissipated in an instant. The cultivators in the tea house immediately left the scene, not daring to stay any longer. Oh my god, that's the shadow swordsman of the swordsman tribe. Just who in the world is this fella? To think that the sword race would send out the shadow sword guards to kill him. As the cultivators in the tea house fled the scene, they too began to suspect Chu Kuangren's identity. The shadow sword guard was a secret troop of the sword race. No one knew how many people there were in this troop or how strong they were. However, everyone knew that anyone who was targeted by the shadow sword guards was an enemy of the sword race. It was difficult for them to have a good ending. The sword race was one of the most horrifying powers within the Emperor's Road. You are indeed very strong. With such sword chi, it is no wonder that you have the same exquisite 9 orifices sword heart as the Daoist. The voice of the mountain sword guards came from the mountain range. He soared into the sky, and a majestic aura of mountains and rivers erupted from his body. The pitch-black broadsword in his hand was flowing with mysterious Daoist rhymes. The mountains and rivers within a radius of 10,000 kilometers trembled at the same time. Chu Kuangren could clearly feel that a large amount of earth chi was gathering towards the mountain sword guards. This person was transforming earth chi into sword chi. This kind of sword Dao that manipulated earth chi was very advanced. Chu Kuangren squinted his eyes. This strength is not much weaker than the Sima clan leader. This made him a little interested in the sword race. If a sword guard could have such strength, then how strong was the sword race as a whole? While Chu Kuangren was deep in thought, the mountain sword guard had gathered the earth chi within a radius of 10,000 kilometers and condensed it on the black broadsword in his hand. 9 tiers of mountain river, slash. With a low roar, the mountain sword guard slashed out with his sword. The majestic sword chi intertwined in the void and formed a giant yellow sword shadow. Within the sword shadow, the scenery of mountains and rivers changed continuously, and its majestic aura instantly locked onto the space within a 10-kilometer radius around Chu Kuangren. Qingxue, stand behind me. Chu Kuangren said calmly. Then, the descendant's self-sword on his waist slashed out, and a domineering sword ray swept out with a destructive momentum. The giant sword shadow immediately shattered with a boom in front of the purple sword ray. The magnificent scenery of mountains and rivers dissipated like bubbles. A single slash, shattering mountains and rivers. So powerful. The mountain sword guard's sword shadow was shattered, and the terrifying impact sent him flying a few hundred meters away. His pupils shrank slightly, and he revealed a serious expression that he had never seen before. He waved the broadsword in his hand, and the mountain river sword shadows appeared one after another. As if the earth chi around him was being drawn, it continuously gathered towards him. 9 tiers of mountain river, ultimate slash. The mountain sword guard waved his broadsword and unleashed 9 slashes in a row, and the power of each slash was stronger than the previous one. When the 9th slash came, the power of the previous 8 slashes seemed to have been stacked together. When the sword slashed out, it was so powerful that even the void was shaken. The entire sky looked like it was about to collapse. This was the mountain sword guard's strongest slash, and it was also his mountain river Dao. Now this slash has some power. Chu Kuangren raised his hand slightly, and the 3 Daoist physique transformations of the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart were activated. The supreme foundation level within his body bloomed with boundless light. With a slash, the majestic sword ray covered the entire sky. The mountain river sword chi was once again torn apart by the purple sword ray. This time, the mountain sword guard was sure that he was no match for Chu Kuangren. He then channeled the spiritual power within his body and turned into a stream of light to escape. Just when Chu Kuangren was about to give chase, he felt a terrifying suction force coming from the ground, tightly binding his feet. Oh, this is earth chi. It's the sword chi from earlier. Chu Kuangren realized that the mountain sword guard's shattered sword chi did not dissipate. Instead, it drilled into the ground and turned back into earth chi to trap Chu Kuangren. It had to be said that this method was indeed quite brilliant. At the very least, it would have a pretty good effect when used against other quasi-emperors. This little trick might work on others, but it's a shame that you're facing me. Chu Kuangren took a step forward, and the sword chi that kept rising from the ground was forcefully stomped into nothingness. Then, his spiritual thoughts gushed out and instantly locked onto the mountain sword guard's position. As a member of the Shadow Sword Guards, the mountain sword guard's combat strength was very high. Not only that, but every Shadow Sword Guard had specialized body techniques as well. He turned into a black shadow and dashed into the distance. Countless cultivators could not even catch a glimpse of the mountain sword guard. However, they still could not escape from Chu Kuangren's mind power. Trying to escape just because you can't beat me? Nothing in this world is that easy. Chu Kuangren's invisible mind power interweaved into lines of mysterious runes in the void, blocking the mountain sword guard's path. He took a step forward. Similarly, no one could detect Chu Kuangren's movement. When he reappeared, he was already standing in front of the mountain sword guard. Die. His cold voice was like the voice of the Grim Reaper. Lines of mysterious runes interweaved into swords, turning into a sword net that enveloped the mountain sword guard. The runic swords were like rain that never stopped. The mountain sword guard defended with all his might, and a defensive boundary emperor weapon appeared on his body. But even so, he still suffered quite a bit of injury. In the end, he managed to block all the runic swords. Before he could even breathe a sigh of relief, a blue rune suddenly appeared on top of his head. On the rune, fine electric arcs danced. Emperor Grade, Thunder Talisman. Chapter 5:16. The Emperor Grade Thunder Talisman appeared. The azure thunder talisman floated above Chu Kuangren's head. Then, a ferocious thunder dragon emerged from it. Its majestic aura enveloped the mountain sword sentinel. What? What is this? Is this a heavenly tribulation? The mountain sword sentinel was terrified. He wanted to escape, but the thunder dragon had already landed. The violent power of lightning invaded every corner of the mountain sword sentinel's body in an instant. Under the paralyzing effect of the lightning, he could not even let out a scream. After 2 to 3 breaths, the lightning dissipated, leaving only a charred corpse on the ground. Chu Kuangren grabbed the yin and yang ring from the mountain sword sentinel. After a quick search, he found a communication compass inside. Before he could say anything, the communication compass began to move on its own. He channeled his spiritual power into it and connected to the communication compass. Mountain Sword Sentinel, how's it going? A middle-aged man's voice came from the communication compass. Since you're able to contact the Mountain Sword Sentinel, and judging from your tone, you must be one of the higher-ups of the swordsmen, right? Chu Kuangren smiled as he held the communication compass. The voice on the other end of the communication compass was silent for a while. Then, the voice spoke again. You're Chu Kuangren, right? Although it was a question, the person's tone was very firm. That's right, it's me. I'm the swordsman tribe leader. Another explosive news came from the communication compass. Chu Kuangren smirked. Oh, what a coincidence. If you're really the swordsman tribe leader, then I have something to tell you. What is it? Are you going to beg for mercy? The swordsman tribe leader asked. To him, no one would not be afraid of such a huge force like the swordsman tribe. Moreover, Chu Kuangren was just a sky pride from the outside world, and the Black Heaven sect was even more unknown. It could be said that they had no one to rely on in the Emperor's path. No, I just want to tell you that if you want to kill me in the future, please send someone more capable. Don't bring out these small fries to embarrass yourselves. If you want to kill me personally, that's fine too. But please write your will and prepare a coffin. I only care about killing you, not burying you. After Chu Kuangren said that, the other side went silent again. You are declaring war on the sword race. One could tell from the tone of the sword race's clan leader that he was starting to get a little angry. After so many years, this was the first time someone had dared to speak to the sword race leader in such a manner. Declare war? Idiot, the war has already started. As soon as Chu Kuangren finished speaking, the sword chi in his hands surged and the communication compass was instantly shattered into pieces. Some communication compasses were equipped with a positioning function. Carrying it by his side would undoubtedly expose his whereabouts at any time. Let's go. Chu Kuangren said to Xianxia. When the two of them passed by the tea house, they left dozens of spiritual sources behind. Waiter, take it as compensation for your tea house. Thank you, my lord. Thank you, my lord. The waiter was moved to tears. He packed up his things and quickly ran away. Meanwhile, thousands of kilometers away, there was a pair of eyes locked onto the area where Chu Kuangren and the mountain sword guards were battling. It was an old man wrapped in a black robe. As expected, this man's strength cannot be underestimated. Unexpectedly, the mountain sword guards were killed before they could even force him to take out his imperial armament. Looks like I can't go head-on against this guy. I'll need to make some preparations. That old man was one of the 3 sword guards that came to kill Chu Kuangren, the grudge sword guard. After witnessing Chu Kuangren's combat strength, he knew that he could not defeat Chu Kuangren with his strength alone. However, that did not mean he was out of ideas. On the other side, in the swordsman tribe. The swordsman tribe leader was so angry that his face turned green when he received Chu Kuangren's message. Let's fight. Very well, it's been a long time since someone dared to fight the swordsman tribe. I'd like to see how you're going to fight the swordsman tribe. The swordsman tribe leader's eyes flashed with a cold light. The swordsman tribe was a huge clan with a deep heritage that was not something the ancient orthodoxies could compare to. They were the swordsman tribe that had been passed down from ancient times and had accumulated countless trump cards. How could a sky pride from the outside world do anything to them? 7-Cord City. This was a large city in the Emperor's path. Many cultivators came and went in the city, making it very lively. Especially in recent days, there was an endless stream of cultivators coming and going. The most unique thing about 7-Cord City was that it was home to the most outstanding musical Dao cultivators on the Emperor's path. 7-Cord referred to the 7 strings on the guqin. Having 7-Cord in its name also represented the number of musical Dao cultivators in this city. And today, a man and a woman arrived outside 7-Cord City. Their faces were covered in a faint spiritual light, making it impossible to see their faces clearly. Only their auras were extraordinary, especially the young man who walked in front. His aura was extraordinary, as if he could become an immortal at any moment. These two were Chu Kuangren and Shang Qingxue, who had come to take a look after hearing that a grand event was happening in Seven Cord City. There were many cultivators on the streets of Seven Cord City. Among them, there were many experts as well. Besides that, a large portion of the cultivators were holding various kinds of musical instruments in their hands. From time to time, beautiful music could be heard from the restaurants on both sides of the street, delightful. Compared to other cities where cultivators gathered, Seven Cord City had a more elegant atmosphere. Many of the cultivators here had a carefree temperament. Sect leader, this Seven Cord City looks extraordinary. It was Shang Qingxue's first time seeing a cultivator city like this, and she could not help but be amazed. Indeed, it's quite interesting. After that, the two of them found an inn and stayed there for the time being. At the same time, they also wanted to find out more about this place. Soon, Chu Kuangren understood the basic structure of Seven Cord City. There were indeed many cultivator forces in Seven Cord City, but to Chu Kuangren, most of them were not worth mentioning. The only one worth paying attention to was the Seven Cord Guqin Guild. The Seven Cord Guqin Guild was an organization formed by the musical Dao forces in Seven Cord City. There were 3 guild leaders, and each guild leader represented an ancient orthodoxy that specialized in music. They were the Sea Clan, the Illusory Sound Sect, and the Hopeless Sound Sect. These 3 forces originated from ancient times and were extremely powerful. As for the rumored emperor weapon that had recently appeared, these 3 forces took turns to keep it. They would only bring it out when the myriad zither banquet began. When that time came, all the musical Dao cultivators would compete to see who would be able to make it recognize them as its master. When the emperor weapon appeared, dark clouds covered the sun and thunder rumbled for 3 days straight. It seems that this emperor weapon is not bad. I have the 8 celestial demonic cords, and the Guqin that I used before has been damaged. Now that I'm missing another Guqin, perhaps I can fight for it. Chu Kuangren murmured. However, fighting for an emperor weapon was not something that could be achieved just by thinking about it. Whether or not one could successfully obtain an emperor weapon still depended on whether or not the emperor weapon recognized them. Hence, great sect leader Chu, who had been slacking on his musical Dao for quite some time, decided to revise his skills. At the same time, he wanted to find out how many musical Dao cultivators in Seven Cord City were capable of fighting him for the emperor weapon. Chapter 5:17. 2 days later, Chu Kuangren had thoroughly practiced the 8 celestial demonic cords. After becoming a sage, his soul had been transformed by a large amount of purple qi, greatly increasing his comprehension ability. Coupled with the support of the meditative clarity attribute, now that he was revisiting the 8 celestial and demon cords, he had a new understanding of this emperor technique, and his realm in the Zither Dao had risen to another level. It's time to find out what kind of powerful musical Daoist cultivators there are in Seven Cords. Chu Kuangren murmured. As for this matter, he left it to Shang Qingxue to collect information for him. She should have some results by now. After calling Shang Qingxue over, she indeed collected a lot of information. Li Changyin, a sky pride of the Illusory Sound Sect's younger generation. Skilled in musical instruments such as guqin and flute. She was once hailed as a rare genius of the Illusory Sound Sect, Ji Xiaoyao, the most outstanding sky pride of the Sea Clan. Skilled in musical Taoism, especially the Sea Clan's famous song, Song of Righteousness, Yang Shiyun, the daughter of the Hope Sound Sect. Skilled in musical Taoism as well. Her cultivation has reached the 7th-step Great Sage realm and can challenge sage rulers. Chu Kuangren looked at the information Shang Qingxue had collected and grinned. Not bad. By the way, sect leader, I've just received news that Yang Shiyun of the Hope Sound Sect is planning to meet her friends at the Cloudy View Pavilion before the banquet of 10,000 musical Daoist. Should we go and have a look? Shang Qingxue said expectantly. Sure. Chu Kuangren nodded. The Cloudy View Pavilion. It was the largest and most elegant restaurant in Seven Cord City. Whenever a musical Daoist master wanted to meet his friends with the guqin, he would usually choose this place. Tonight, many musical Daoist cultivators had come to the Cloudy View Pavilion. Chu Kuangren and Shang Qingxue had arrived as well. However, they were stopped just as they were about to enter. "I'm sorry, but Goddess Yang has already reserved the entire cloud viewing pavilion. You'll need an invitation if you want to enter." A restaurant staff member who was serving the cultivators at the entrance said apologetically. Chu Kuangren could not help but glare at Shang Qingxue, as if saying, "Why do you need an invitation?" Shang Qingxue clasped her hands together and said, "I'm sorry, sect leader. What do we do now?" Chu Kuangren rubbed his chin as he looked at the brightly lit cloud pavilion, feeling a little troubled. Was he going to force his way in? It wasn't appropriate. Just as Chu Kuangren was deep in thought, two figures slowly walked towards him from afar. They were a man and a woman. When the female cultivator saw Chu Kuangren's silhouette, she suddenly revealed an uncertain expression. This figure, this aura, could it be? The female cultivator seemed to have thought of something, and her mind shook. Beside her, the handsome young man could also see Chu Kuangren's back and frowned slightly. "Yao Rao, do you know that person?" the young man asked. That female cultivator was quite famous in the Firmament Star. She was the Sky Pride who had challenged Chu Kuangren before, Feng Yao Rao. "I wonder if he's the person I'm thinking of." Feng Yao Rao walked forward with anticipation in her eyes. At this time, Chu Kuangren was still thinking about how to get into the Cloud View Pavilion. Looking at the cultivators coming and going, he had a malicious look in his eyes. Otherwise, he could secretly snatch 2 invitations. "Fellow cultivator Chu." Just then, Feng Yao Rao's voice came from behind Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren turned around and saw Feng Yao Rao. A hint of surprise appeared in his eyes. "You're that brother Feng Yao Rao?" He had some impression of Feng Yao Rao. However, he had forgotten her name. He could not recall it even after thinking for a while, so he could only refer to her as fellow cultivator. The corner of Feng Yao Rao's mouth twitched when she heard that. She looked at him with a hint of bitterness in her eyes. "It really is fellow Daoist Chu. I can't forget you, fellow Daoist Chu. I didn't expect fellow Daoist Chu to not even remember my name." Beside her, the handsome young man's expression froze for a moment. The man that Feng Yao Rao could not forget? The young man looked at Chu Kuangren with hostility, but he quickly hid it. However, Shang Qingxue, who was beside Chu Kuangren, noticed it and looked at the young man with a pitiful gaze. "Sigh, I hope this guy is smart enough not to provoke the sect leader. Otherwise, I can only pray for my own good. Cough cough, I didn't expect to meet you here, brother Feng. What a coincidence." Chu Kuangren coughed twice to hide his embarrassment. "My name is Feng Yao Rao. I hope you don't forget me, brother Chu. By the way, are you here for Lady Yang's banquet too?" Feng Yao Rao said. "That's right. It's just a shame that we don't have an invitation," Chu Kuangren said helplessly. "I see. I do have one here. Why don't you give it to brother Chu?" Feng Yao Rao took out an invitation and said. Beside her, the handsome young man suddenly said, "Yao Rao, there's no need to go through so much trouble. I'm friends with Lady Yang, so your 2 friends can come with us. If it's someone brought by Li Daozi, then it won't be a problem." The restaurant staff immediately said with a flattering smile. It was obvious that he knew who this young man was and that he was of high status. Chu Kuangren activated his eye of revelation and glanced at the young man. Li Changyin, a Daoist from the Illusory Sound sect. "Oh, it's him." Chu Kuangren had a look of realization. Li Changyin was very famous in Seven Chord City. He was known as the Illusory Sound sect's once-in-a-lifetime genius. With Li Changyin's help, Chu Kuangren and Shang Qingxue entered the Cloudy Pavilion. Lady Yang wants to meet friends through the Guqin. This is a rare occasion. Yeah, I can't miss out on such a grand event. Not only are there to listen to Lady Yang's heavenly music, but there are also people who want to see her beauty. I won't hide it from you. I have the same intention. Inside the cloudy pavilion, many music Dao cultivators had gathered. When Chu Kuangren and the others entered, many cultivators turned to look at them. However, Chu Kuangren's face was shrouded in a spiritual glow, so they could not see him clearly. Hence, the crowd did not pay any attention to him. Instead, they were looking at Li Changyin, who was beside him. "Yo, Li Daozi is here. Li Daozi, how have you been?" Li Daozi's presence really adds a lot of color to this banquet. Come, take a seat." Everyone was very respectful to Li Changyin, and many of them were trying to curry favor with him. Some of the female Guqin players looked at the handsome Li Changyin with a glimmer in their eyes. Chu Kuangren, on the other hand, had become a foil. This was a novelty to Chu Kuangren. In the past, he was always the center of attention no matter where he went, but now he was suddenly ignored, which made him feel a little strange. He could not help but lament. So this is how it feels to be ignored. On the side, Li Changyin was very pleased with the compliments and said with a faint smile, "Come, everyone, let me introduce to you. This is my friend Feng Yaorao, fellow Daoist Feng. As for the two beside her, why don't the two of you take off your mask and introduce yourselves to everyone?" As Li Changyin spoke, everyone looked at Chu Kuangren and Shang Qingxue. "There are so many people here, but only the two of you are being secretive. Isn't that a little too disrespectful?" "Indeed, it was my oversight." Chu Kuangren smiled and the spiritual glow on his face dissipated. Chapter 518. My apologies, it was an oversight on my part. Chu Kuangren smiled and removed the spiritual glow from his face. The moment the spiritual glow dissipated, there was a moment of silence. Everyone stared blankly at Chu Kuangren for a few seconds. The eyes of the female zither players especially lit up. "Master, you look like a painting. You must be a deity." "I've been composing a song recently, and it's dedicated to praising the deities in the heavens. However, I've been lacking some inspiration, but now it seems like I have it. I can't believe there's such an extraordinary person in this world." Even Li Changyin was stunned. He had asked Chu Kuangren to remove the spiritual glow from his face, but he did not expect Chu Kuangren to have such an earth-shattering appearance. The moment the spiritual glow disappeared, Chu Kuangren had completely stolen his limelight. At that moment, he finally understood why Feng Yaorao could not forget Chu Kuangren so much. If he were a woman, he would not be able to forget Chu Kuangren as well. "May I know what your name is, master? Which orthodoxy are you from? What kind of songs do you specialize in?" The female cultivators who had been staring at Li Changyin could no longer sit still. They stood up and asked Chu Kuangren. They could still maintain their composure when facing Li Changyin. However, when facing someone of Chu Kuangren's level, their composure could only go to hell. If they did not make a move now, someone else would beat them to it. Chu Kuangren was calm in the face of the passionate female cultivators. He was very familiar with it. His elegant demeanor made the female cultivators even more tempted. As for the other cultivators who were watching from the side, they could not help but feel jealous. They could not wait to kick Chu Kuangren away and take his place. At that moment, the ceiling of the cloudy view pavilion suddenly opened, and a beam of moonlight shone in. Under the moonlight, a woman in a long white dress and holding a zither slowly descended. The woman had a graceful figure, exquisite facial features, and a cold aura. Like the bright moon, she gave off a feeling that she was unreachable. The eyes of the cultivators present lit up when they saw her. Goddess Yang is here. The zither she's holding must be one of the Hope Sound Sect's 7 great zither, the water moon. Not bad, Fairy Yang is finally here. Yang Shiyun landed on a high platform in the Yunxian pavilion, looked around, and then bowed. "Greetings, fellow Daoists. I've invited all of you here today mainly because I've been inspired recently and I've composed a song. I'd like all of you to give it a listen." "Huh, Fairy Yang's new song, I'm looking forward to it." "Yeah. Sect Master. Sect Leader." Just as Chu Kuangren was about to find a place to sit down and enjoy the music, Shang Qingxue, who was beside him, suddenly tugged at Chu Kuangren's sleeve and pointed somewhere. Chu Kuangren looked over and was stunned for a moment. It's Murong Xian. Not far away from Chu Kuangren was a man sitting on a seat. This man was none other than Murong Xian. The other party must have just entered. Otherwise, there was no way he would not have noticed Chu Kuangren. This guy, he's actually here. Chu Kuangren was just about to walk up to him and ask him about his recent situation. However, Shang Qingxue pulled him back again. Sect leader, something isn't right. What happened? Look at Murong Xian and Yang Xiyun. Both of them seem to be having that kind of relationship. When Chu Kuangren heard that, he took a closer look as well. He realized that there was indeed something wrong with both of them. Yang Xiyun was on the stage while Murong Xian was below. The two of them were separated by more than 10 people, but they kept looking at each other with a dubious look in their eyes. When Yang Xiyun, who seemed to be high and mighty, saw Murong Xian, her eyes were filled with tenderness. This Murong Xian kid, looks like he's going to find a girlfriend soon. Chu Kuangren said in amazement. He was not in a hurry to go up and disturb the other party. Shang Qingxue, who was beside him, was also very surprised. I've been collecting some information about Yang Xiyun for the past few days. According to the information, he's a very cold and aloof person. Apart from his musical Dao, he has nothing else. I can't believe that Murong Xian managed to win him over. Not bad, Murong Xian. Qingxue, if Murong Xian and Yang Xiyun become Daoist partners, what kind of betrothal gift do you think the Black Heaven sect should give him? Ugh, sect leader, you're thinking too far ahead. We haven't even gotten anything done yet. Shang Qingxue rolled her eyes at the side. Besides Chu Kuangren and Shang Qingxue, the others had also noticed Yang Xiyun and Murong Xian. Some of the male cultivators could not help but frown. Who's this guy? Why is Goddess Yang staring at him? Don't tell me Goddess Yang's heart already belongs to someone? All the male cultivators were indignant. To them, Yang Xiyun was the goddess of Seven Flux City. Now that their goddess heart seemed to have been stolen by an unknown outsider, how could they tolerate that? At that moment, on the stage, Yang Xiyun began to play her newly composed song. A beautiful melody instantly filled the air, and the sound of her guqin reverberated with a sense of joy and affection. In an instant, the crowd felt a surge of sweetness in their hearts. Yang Xiyun's musical Dao had reached a very high level to be able to move the crowd's emotions with her guqin music. It was not wrong to call her a musical Dao grandmaster. This song is amazing. It's definitely the best song I've ever heard. Goddess Yang's musical skills have improved again. After the song ended, the crowd looked at Yang Xiyun, who was on the stage, in awe. They saw that she was looking at Murong Xian, who was below the stage, with an indescribable tenderness in their eyes. Coupled with the affectionate tune from earlier, the male cultivators felt their hearts shatter. Holy sh*t, how is this supposed to be a musical meeting? This is obviously a large-scale public display of dog food. She's basically luring the dogs here to be slaughtered. Chu Kuangren shook his head and lamented as he watched from the side. Goddess Yang, this song is very different from the past. I wonder why. At that moment, Li Changyin suddenly stood up and asked, unable to sit still any longer. What he said was also what everyone wanted to know. When Yang Xiyun heard this, she seemed to have thought of something and a rare smile appeared on her face. I met someone not long ago, and then I was inspired and composed this song. Perhaps this is the resonance between people and music, and it was inspired by my feelings. Upon hearing that, the crowd could almost confirm it. Yang Xiyun had definitely fallen into the river of love. Otherwise, why would she suddenly compose such an affectionate song? Goddess Yang, I wonder if the person you're talking about is this brother over here. At that moment, another young man stood up and pointed at Murong Xian. When Yang Xiyun saw this, her face turned slightly red. She then smiled and said, "This is my savior, Murong Xian, fellow Murong." She did not say it out loud, but from her expression, it was obvious. With the addition of the word savior, the crowd could already imagine dozens of scenarios of a hero saving a damsel in distress. Everyone, today is a musical meeting. Now that I've finished my performance, I wonder if anyone would like to come up and show me. Yang Xian smiled, walked down the stage, and sat down next to Wuxia. This scene made the crowd even more jealous. However, this was Yang Xian's personal matter. They were not related to Yang Xian, so it was not their place to say anything. Chapter 5:19. Yang Xian and Wuxia sat together, whispering into each other's ears as if they were very close. When the others saw that, they were very annoyed. One by one, they went up onto the stage to showcase their guqin skills, hoping to attract Yang Xian's attention and win her heart back. Good, good. This high mountain tune is really profound. Violinist Lin's skill has improved by another level. One of the musicians walked down from the stage and looked towards Yang Xian's direction. However, she only glanced at him out of politeness before she turned around and continued her conversation with Wuxia. That musician was very annoyed, but there was nothing he could do. Not far away, Chu Kuangren, Shang Qingxue, and Feng Yaorao were sitting at a table. Brother Chu, what do you think of musician Lin's performance just now? Feng Yaorao asked casually. She simply wanted to talk to Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren was silent for a while before he said, "How should I put it? It was alright, I guess." When he said that, Shang Qingxue, who was beside him, had been paying attention to the changes in Chu Kuangren's expression. When she saw that he was silent for a while before he answered, she could basically conclude that the sect leader did not even listen to what he said just now. In fact, it was almost the same. Other than Yang Xian, who was at the beginning, the others' guqin skills were not worth his attention at all. It was too rough. He could not understand why these people would cheer so passionately. Was that guqin music that nice to listen to? However, he also understood that his cultivation realm was not on the same level as these people, so he could not use his own standards to judge others. Hence, he did not make any excessive comments and only said that it was all right. That was already the most lenient he could give them. However, his self-proclaimed leniency was seen as perfunctory in the eyes of the others. Everyone frowned, but didn't say anything. Then, another person went up onto the stage to showcase his guqin skills. When the song ended, the entire hall cheered. Brother Chu, what do you think of this song? Feng Yaorao asked again. It was alright, I guess. Alright again? Damn, this guy is quite arrogant. The crowd thought to themselves as they looked at Chu Kuangren with hostility. By the way, Li Daozi, why don't you go up and play a song to broaden everyone's horizons? At this moment, a musician suggested. Hearing this, everyone immediately looked at Li Changyin. Even Yang Xian was no exception. Meanwhile, Wuxia also looked towards where Li Changyin and the others were. When he saw Chu Kuangren and Shang Qingxue, his eyes instantly widened. Sect leader. Wuxia could not help but cry out in surprise. Chu Kuangren looked at him with a gloomy gaze. You've finally noticed me, the sect leader. Everyone looked at the two of them in surprise. Yang Xian's eyes lit up when she saw Chu Kuangren. She said to Wuxia, Brother Murong, is this the sect leader you've been talking about? Not bad. Yang Xian nodded and bowed to Chu Kuangren. Greetings, sect leader Chu. My name is Yang Xian. He didn't call him fellow Daoist, but sect master. It was a little respectful, as if he was meeting a parent. Chu Kuangren smiled. You're welcome, Goddess Yang. Sect leader, why are you guys here? Wuxia asked curiously. This is a bit of a long story. If that's the case, let's wait until the banquet is over. We're here to make friends with the guqin, not to listen to you guys reminisce. One of the guqin musicians said unhappily. Chu Kuangren and Wuxia both glanced at that person, but they did not say anything. Then I shall go up first. Li Changyin smiled. He then went up the stage and took out a guqin. According to the information, this person was an expert in all kinds of musical instruments. However, no matter how good he was, there was still one instrument that he was best at, and that was the guqin. Li Changyin smiled at the crowd elegantly. Then, he began to play with all 10 of his fingers. In an instant, guqin music poured out and reverberated in the air. The crowd could not help but be mesmerized by the guqin music. Even a musical Daoist master like Yang Shiyun could not help but be impressed. When the song ended, the crowd was still immersed in the music. Good, very good. As expected of Li Daozi. This song is enough to go down in the history of music. This song is not inferior to the one that Lady Yang played earlier. In fact, it's even more profound. As usual, the crowd complimented Li Changyin even more than before. Li Changyin's song instantly made it sound like there was nothing in the world. Chu Kuangren was dumbfounded. Is it really that good? Brother Chu, what do you think? Feng Yaorao asked. It's alright. Chu Kuangren admitted that Li Changyin's guqin music was much better than the others, but to him, it was still only alright. His guqin music was the same as the others. It had not reached a qualitative change. Pfft, I thought he was some musical Daoist expert. Turns out he's just a tone-deaf person who knows nothing about music. One of the musicians said with disdain in his eyes. The others also thought that Chu Kuangren knew nothing about musical Taoism. Otherwise, why would he give the same evaluation every time? Li Daozi's guqin skills are obviously better than the others, but he still gave the same evaluation. It seems like he has no interest in musical Taoism at all. That's right. I guess he doesn't even know how many strings there are on the guqin. Forget it. He's just a layman. There's no need to argue with him. The crowd laughed for a while before they ignored him. In their opinion, they were professionals, and discussing the art of the zither with a layman was simply an insult to their culture. Brother Chu, aren't you going to show off your skills? Feng Yaorao, who was beside Chu Kuangren, said. She was a little annoyed to see the crowd looking down on Chu Kuangren. The others might not know, but how could she, who had fought with Chu Kuangren before, not know? Chu Kuangren knew how to play the guqin. Moreover, he was an expert. That 8 celestial demonic chords was still fresh in her memory. There's no need. Besides, I don't have a guqin with me. Chu Kuangren shook his head. His expression was calm. He did not care about the gossip of the crowd. These people treated him like a layman, but he treated them like a bunch of frogs in a well. He would not easily show off his musical skills. Besides, not many people in this world were qualified to listen to his guqin music. He couldn't be bothered to go on stage to show off just because of a few words of gossip. All right. Feng Yaorao did not say anything else. However, at that moment, the crowd turned their attention to Murong Xian. This brother Murong here has a close relationship with Lady Yang. I'm sure he has some attainments in musical Taoism. I wonder if you can show us? A white-robed musical cultivator said. Compared to Chu Kuangren, Murong Xian, who had stolen Yang Shiyun's heart, was undoubtedly more likely to be hated by these people. I'm not good with music, Murong Xian said honestly. Brother Murong, you must be joking. Are you looking down on us and thinking that we're not qualified to listen to your music? The white-robed musical cultivator's tone changed and became a little aggressive towards the end. If this is considered looking down on us, then you're really too insignificant. At that moment, an indifferent voice was heard. Chapter 520. When Chu Kuangren spoke, the white-haired guqin master choked. Li Changyin looked at Chu Kuangren and said, Brother Chu, you're being too harsh. We're just here to witness Brother Murong's guqin skills. Oh, does that mean he doesn't know how to perform? We're friends with the guqin. If he doesn't know how to play, why would he be here? The white-haired guqin master said. Why do you care if we eat or sleep? As the host, Goddess Yang didn't even say anything, so why are you here? Chu Kuangren glanced at the white-haired Guqin master. At that moment, the white-haired Guqin master felt like he was being stared at by an ancient ferocious beast, and a chill ran down his spine. "All right, these are my friends. Please give me some face and let this matter rest," Yang Xian said. The crowd did not say anything else and let the matter rest. Soon, the banquet came to an end. Chu Kuangren's visit was a huge disappointment. Aside from Yang Xian and Li Changyin, the rest of the musical cultivators present were all mediocre. Even Yang Xian and Li Changyin could not compare to him. However, he was pleasantly surprised to see Murongxian. The few of them gathered in a private room and discussed their recent happenings. "Tell me, how did you get together with Yang Xian?" Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up as his gossipy soul burned. Murongxian blushed. "Sect leader, Goddess Yang and I are pure." "Pure? The two of you flirted with each other in public. Who would believe you if you told me you were pure?" Cough cough, is it that obvious? F*ck me, you still have the nerve to say that? Isn't it obvious enough that the two of you are in a relationship written on your faces? Actually, this is what happened. Chu Kuangren and Shang Qingxue listened with great interest. It turned out that when Murongxian entered the emperor's path, he was transported to a forest by spatial energy. There were many demonic beasts in the forest. Murongxian walked for a few days but he still could not get out. Later on, he met Yang Xian who happened to be out on a training trip. He saved her when she was surrounded by demonic beasts and the two of them spent some time together in the forest. During that period of time, the two of them developed feelings for each other. Since Murongxian had just arrived, he followed Yang Xian back to the Hope Sound clan. Until today, when he met Chu Kuangren and his companion here. Chu Kuangren was a little disappointed when he heard that. "That's it? What else do you want me to do, sect leader?" Murongxian asked helplessly. "You brat, your luck with women is not bad. You met such an innocent girl. You even managed to move her with such a cliché script of a hero saving a beauty. Xian is focused on studying the way of the zither. She is indeed quite simple." "Oh my, you were calling me Goddess Yang just now. Why are you calling me Xian now?" Chu Kuangren teased. Murongxian's face turned red. Chu Kuangren only teased him for a while. At this moment, someone knocked on the door. Yang Xian walked in and said with a faint smile, "Brother Murong, why don't you invite sect leader Chu and fellow Daoist Shang to the Hope Sound sect together?" Murongxian looked at Chu Kuangren and his companion. "If that's the case, we shall take our leave then." Chu Kuangren smiled and said, "No problem." Under Yang Xian's invitation, Chu Kuangren and his companion arrived at the Hope Sound sect. The Hope Sound sect leader received Chu Kuangren and his companion. The Hope Sound sect leader was a middle-aged woman with a few faint crow's feet between her brows. She had a mature charm about her. When she found out that Chu Kuangren was Murongxian's sect leader, her attitude was a little cold. She only asked someone to arrange 2 simple rooms for them. "Sect leader, although the Hope Sound sect leader didn't say it explicitly, she seems to have something against us," Shang Qingxue said. "It's not that you have a problem with us, but with Murongxian. Think about it, the disciple that you've painstakingly nurtured has been snatched away by an outsider. Do you think you'll treat him kindly?" Chu Kuangren chuckled. "Is that really it? I hope so. Otherwise, things with Murongxian will not be easy to handle." Time passed, and soon, it was time for the Thousand Zither Banquet. The Thousand Zither Banquet was held in a huge plaza in Seven Cord City. On that day, the plaza was filled with people. Countless zither cultivators were eagerly waiting for the emperor weapon to appear. Everyone was waiting for the emperor weapon to appear. Most of these people were zither cultivators. Li Changyin, Yang Xian, Little Demon Ji, and a few other outstanding youths of Seven Cord City were among them. At that moment, 3 figures flew over and landed in the center of the plaza. It's the 7-string Zither Guild's 3 guild leaders. The Hope Sound sect leader, the Illusory Sound sect leader, and the Sea clan leader. Not only are these three legendary figures in music Dao, but they're also famous experts in the Emperor's path. Only these three are qualified to host the Thousand Zither banquet. After all, it's an Emperor weapon that chooses its master. Of course, there must be a few people who are qualified to host it. The crowd of Zither cultivators at the scene discussed among themselves. Meanwhile, the three guild leaders swept their gazes across the crowd. They wanted to see if there were any noteworthy Zither Dao experts among them. The Northern Sea Zither sage is here too. Not only him, but even the glazed Daoist who has been living in seclusion in the heavenly glazed mountain for many years is here. The gazes of the three guild leaders swept across the crowd. All the famous Zither cultivators in their memories had arrived. At that moment, a sword light suddenly descended from the sky. The sword light landed, and a gust of sword chi swept past like a hurricane. A handsome young man slowly walked over from the distance. This man arrived in front of the sword light and pulled out his sword. On his back was a black zither. Dressed like this, it must be the sword race's genius, Jian Changfeng. I didn't expect that even the people of the sword race would participate in this Thousand Zither banquet. I guess most of the Zither cultivators have arrived. Jian Changfeng was one of the peak geniuses of the Emperor's Path's younger generation, second only to the forbidden geniuses. It was said that this person was so powerful that he had once fought with a quasi-emperor without being at a disadvantage. After Jian Changfeng appeared, other geniuses who were proficient in Zither Dao appeared one after another. Every one of them had a great background. Looking at these people, the ordinary Zither cultivators immediately felt great pressure. With their abilities, it would be impossible for them to obtain the Emperor weapons from these people. Forget it, I didn't have any hope in the first place. Let's just treat it as seeing the world. A few Zither cultivators comforted themselves. When the Sea clan's clan leader saw that most people had arrived, he stroked his beard and said indifferently, "Welcome, Emperor weapons." Then, a large number of dark clouds gathered in the sky. Within the dark clouds, azure lightning flashed wildly, emitting an incomparably powerful pressure. Following that, a bolt of lightning struck down. When the lightning dissipated, a beautiful azure zither that looked like it was made of crystal appeared in everyone's eyes. This zither was the Emperor weapon that many Zither cultivators dreamed of. This zither is called Spring Thunder. Chapter 521. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning descended from the sky and turned into an azure zither that looked like it was made of crystal. There were 7 strings on the zither that were overflowing with light. It was extraordinary. This zither is called Spring Thunder. Imperial Armament, Spring Thunder. As soon as the Sea clan master finished speaking, all the Zither cultivators looked at the zither with uncontrollable fanaticism in their eyes. This is an imperial armament. It is indeed extraordinary. Rumor has it that when this zither appeared, dark clouds covered the sun and thunder rumbled for 3 days. Is that why it is named Spring Thunder? Spring Thunder, the thunder of spring. It is majestic and contains the intent to nurture all living things. All the Zither cultivators stared at the Spring Thunder and wished they could touch it. However, with the 3 presidents of the 7-string Zither guild waiting there, they would not dare to act rashly even if they were 10 times more courageous. The imperial armament has appeared. Now is the time for everyone to show off and gain the recognition of the imperial armament. Please, the illusory sound sect master said. The 3 presidents had already tried, but no one could gain the recognition of the imperial armament. They had even fought over the ownership of the imperial armament. That was why they held the 10,000 Zither banquet to let the Spring Thunder choose its own master. Since it is a Zither imperial armament, one must have the corresponding cultivation of the Zither Dao to gain its recognition. Let me go first. A white-robed Zither master took a step forward and took out a zither. He plucked the zither with his 10 fingers and played rapidly, wanting to gain the recognition of the imperial armament. However, no matter how he played, the Spring Thunder did not move at all. The white-robed zither master was unwilling to give up. He kept playing and didn't even notice that the zither strings were cutting his fingers. He was like a crazy demon. Zither Imperial armaments were too rare. To cultivators who specialized in the Zither Dao, they were supreme treasures. Now that the treasure was right in front of the white-robed Zither master, how could he be willing to give up? Your Zither Dao cultivation is not enough, Jian Changfeng from the Sword Clan said. Jian Changfeng from the Sword Clan said faintly. With a raise of his hand, a boundless spiritual energy burst out and sent the white-clothed Zither player flying. The white-robed Zither player fell to the ground. Just as he was about to get up and resist, a biting cold sword intent locked onto him. It was like a bucket of cold water had been poured over his head, causing him to sober up. He looked at the sword race's genius, Jian Changfeng, and did not dare to act rashly. He glanced at the spring lightning and knew that he was not fated to obtain this monarch weapon. Jian Changfeng ignored the Zither player and looked at the spring lightning before him. He said indifferently, "This emperor weapon must have been prepared for me." Then, he took down the black Zither on his back, placed it across his knees, and began to play. He was known as the Guqin and Sword Duel Master. His Guqin music was just like his sword, filled with a biting cold aura. The sound of the Zither was extraordinary, bursting out with the sound of metal. It was as if thousands of men and horses were charging and colliding in front of them. Great music. Good skills. A Zither master's eyes lit up and he couldn't help but sigh in praise. Everyone looked at the monarch weapon, spring lightning. The monarch weapon trembled slightly, but it soon became motionless. Jian Changfeng frowned slightly. He hadn't expected that the monarch weapon would still not acknowledge him. As expected of a monarch weapon. However, I must obtain you today. Jian Changfeng coldly snorted. Then, he plucked the strings with his 10 fingers, and the Zither music increased by another level. Let's attack together. I don't know how long we will have to wait. If you want to gain the monarch weapon's acknowledgement, you will have to rely on your own abilities. Many Zither cultivators present could no longer hold back. They took out their Zither and began to play. Li Changyin, Yang Xiyun, Ji Xiaoyao, and the other Zither path geniuses were no exception. For a time, the entire plaza was filled with countless Zither tunes, and all kinds of Dao runes filled the air. Thousands of strings danced, and thousands of Zither tunes rang out. All the Zither cultivators were performing their own Zither tunes in an attempt to attract the monarch weapon. Among them, several Zither tunes were the most obvious. Apart from Jian Changfeng's Zither tunes, Li Changyin and the other 7 Flux City geniuses were more outstanding. Among them, Li Changyin's Zither tunes were somewhat illusory, like the illusory clouds in the sky, lofty and ethereal. Hope Sound Sex Yang Xiyun was also very extraordinary. Compared to the affectionate tune she had played at the Cloud Xian Pavilion a few days ago, the tune she was playing today was like a high mountain and flowing river. It was majestic and had a profound artistic conception. It was like a long scroll of mountains and rivers that was slowly unfolding. On the other side, the petite Ji Xiaoyao held a Zither in her hands. The Zither tunes she played were sonorous and powerful. Each tune seemed to use all of her strength, bursting forth with a majestic intent. It was the Sea Clan's legacy song, the Song of Righteousness. Most of the Zither cultivators' Zither tunes were suppressed by those few geniuses' Zither tunes. Some of the Zither players were even disrupted and did not know how to continue playing. However, no matter how hard the Zither cultivators tried, they were unable to resonate with the monarch weapon, spring lightning, let alone make it recognize them as its master. Damn it, it is indeed not an easy task to gain the monarch weapon's acknowledgement. We've already given it our all and played the Zither tunes that we're most proud of, but it's still useless? Just as everyone was trying their best to gain the monarch weapon's acknowledgement. Loud laughter suddenly sounded from above the clouds. This laughter was extremely loud and contained an extremely dense spiritual power, echoing through the clouds. All the Zither tunes in the square were suppressed by this laughter. There is no one in the current generation who can gain the monarch weapon's acknowledgement. 2 people could be seen walking through the clouds. They were 2 old men. One carried a Zither on his back, while the other carried a huge paintbrush. They exuded an extremely powerful quasi-emperor aura. The expressions of the three presidents of the Zither Club changed at once when they saw these two people. It's them, the Zither demon, painting ghost. What are these two fellows doing here? The Zither demon, painting ghost, was definitely a legendary name on the monarch path. Of these two people, one had entered the Tao through the Zither, while the other had entered the Tao through painting. Their cultivation levels were extraordinary and they were top existences among the quasi-emperors. However, these two people did not have a good reputation on the monarch path. The Zither demon was good at collecting zither. Any zither that caught his eye, he would get his hands on it, even if the zither already had an owner. The painting ghost was almost the same, but there was one difference. He collected all the famous paintings in the world to copy them. After copying them, he would destroy the original version and then deliberately spread the copied painting. Due to his superb painting skills, very few people could see through the authenticity of the painting. He liked the feeling of toying with the painters of the world. Once someone saw through the disguise, he would go to the person's door and kill the person who saw through the disguise. Therefore, even if someone could tell that the paintings were copied by Painting Ghost, they wouldn't dare to say it. Because of this, the Zither demon, Painting Ghost did not have a good reputation on the monarch path. But because of their great strength, no one had ever been able to do anything to them. Later on, the two of them seemed to have retired and haven't appeared for thousands of years. But this time, the appearance of the monarch weapon, Spring Thunder, attracted the two of them. There is no one in the current generation who can gain the monarch weapon's acknowledgement. If that's the case, then it would be impolite of me to refuse. The one who spoke was the Zither demon. His black hair fluttered in the wind as he took out a completely black zither that exuded an eerie vibe. That was the Zither demon's most precious collection, the zither of the demonic Een. Chapter 522. With the appearance of the Een demon zither, a cold and sinister Tao rime spread out, causing the surrounding temperature to drop to freezing point. Especially the zither of the Zither cultivators present, which were shrouded in a layer of treacherous chill. Some of the Zither cultivators' fingers were corroded by this chill, and they couldn't help but throw away their zither, looking at the Zither devil and the zither in his hands in horror. What zither is that? How could it be so treacherous? That zither is strange. Only Li Changyin and the other geniuses could resist the chill. However, they couldn't help but look at the Zither devil with fear. This is the Zither devil? Is that the legendary Een demon zither? It really is extraordinary. Terrifying. The Zither devil swept his cold gaze over the crowd and sneered, "This is the current generation's outstanding zither talent. Apart from a few people who can be used, the rest are all trash." Hearing this, the Zither cultivators were somewhat unwilling. However, due to the Zither devil's strength, they could only suppress their dissatisfaction, not daring to reveal the slightest bit. Seeing their attitudes, the disdain in the Zither devil's eyes intensified. "Zither devil, what are you doing here?" The Sea clan patriarch asked. "What am I doing? Of course I'm here to make this imperial zither weapon recognize me as its master." The Zither devil chuckled and looked at Chun Lei. "After so many years, this is the first time I've seen a zither imperial weapon. How could I miss such a zither? You are not welcome here." The illusory sound sect master said coldly. Zither cultivators would not have a good impression of the Zither devil. Seven Flux City was a gathering place for Zither cultivators, so it was even less likely that the Zither devil would be welcome. "Since you don't have the ability to make the imperial weapon recognize you as its master, let me do it. Since you don't welcome me, what does it have to do with me? Brother Zither devil, you can focus on your own matters. Let me handle these old fellows," Painted Ghost said with a smile. He looked at the Sea clan patriarch and the others with disdain in his eyes. He took out the giant brush on his back and lightly drew a line. A huge ink mark appeared in the air. The ink mark spread out, transforming into a landscape of mountains and rivers, covering an area of several dozen li. It instantly pulled the Sea clan patriarch and the others into a world within a painting. "Everyone, be careful. Let me see what kind of methods the rumored painted ghost has. While the Sea Clan Patriarch and the other two quasi-emperors were entangled with the painted ghost, the zither demon had already made his move. He looked at the spring thunder in front of him, his 10 fingers quickly dancing on the magic zither. Strange zither sounds erupted, shaking a radius of 100 miles. Hearing this sound, countless creatures felt as if their heads were going to explode, and they clutched their heads in pain as they howled. Even a prodigy like Li Changyin had no choice but to circulate his spiritual energy to resist this strange zither music. Clank clank clank, the frenzied and eerie sound of the zither reverberated through the air. Not far away, the spring thunder zither seemed to have also sensed the sound and began to tremble. Yes, that's right. That's it. Submit to me, spring thunder. I am the only master in this world who can bring out your full potential. The zither devil's eyes were burning with passion. Just as he had said, after collecting zither for so many years, this was the first time he had encountered a zither emperor weapon. He absolutely couldn't miss it. He even envisioned the scene of him wielding this emperor weapon and slaughtering his way through the world. If this goes on, this spring thunder zither might really be subdued by the zither devil. Li Changyin and the rest could not help but reveal grave expressions when they saw this. If you want to subdue an emperor weapon, you'll have to ask for my permission first. Jian Changfeng suddenly bellowed, drew his long sword, and slashed across the sky. Terrifying sword chi poured out. Junior, you're a hindrance. The zither devil snorted coldly and plucked the zither strings. A powerful zither music Daoist rhyme erupted, shattering the zither sword and sending Jian Changfeng flying hundreds of feet away. So powerful. Jian Changfeng's pupils shrank slightly. Just a single zither music was unbearable for him, which meant that the zither devil's combat strength was much stronger than his. If it wasn't for the sake of the sword race, that zither music would have been enough to kill you. The zither devil said coldly. When the rest heard this, they could not help but sigh inwardly. Indeed, it was good to have a powerful background. If it was someone else, that person would have been killed by that zither music. The might of the zither devil shocked everyone, and no one dared to approach and obstruct the zither devil anymore. It seems like this spring lightning does not belong to us. Li Changyin's expression turned ugly. The zither devil is extremely cruel. Now that he has obtained this emperor weapon, who knows how he'll harm the world. Yang Xian's eyes were filled with worry. She looked at the Ji clan's clan head and the rest who were fighting with the painted ghost. The painted ghost was extremely powerful, and he was not at a disadvantage even when fighting with 3 quasi-emperors at the same time. There were thousands of ghosts wailing in the world in the painting, and it was a horrifying scene from hell. Although the 3 quasi-emperors did not pose much of a hindrance to the painted ghost, they would not be able to break out of the world in a short period of time. If the zither devil obtained the emperor weapon, then no one would be able to stop the 2 of them. Buzz! At that moment, the emperor weapon, spring lightning, exploded with a terrifying emperor aura. With a clang, a terrifying sound wave spread out like a sudden clap of thunder. The zither devil was sent flying hundreds of feet away by this tyrannical force. After repelling the zither devil, spring lightning once again calmed down. Upon seeing this scene, everyone turned pale with fright. Especially the zither devil, his expression was extremely ugly. You rejected me? You actually rejected me? In this world, apart from me, the zither devil, who else is worthy of using you? The zither devil roared at the emperor weapon, spring lightning. Everyone looked at each other. They did not expect that even the zither devil would not be able to obtain the emperor weapon, spring lightning's recognition. One should know that although the zither devil's character was not very good, his zither Dao cultivation was unquestionable. In terms of zither Dao, if he was ranked second, then no one would dare to say that they were ranked first. Since you don't recognize me, then no one else can obtain you. The zither devil's eyes were crazed as he charged at spring lightning. He wanted to snatch spring lightning by force. Even if he could not obtain its recognition, he would hide it so that no one else could obtain it. Spring lightning seemed to have sensed the zither devil's thoughts. The azure body of the zither released a bolt of lightning, which turned into an air barrier in front of the zither devil. The zither devil's hand collided with the lightning, causing a loud explosion in the void. However, although spring lightning was powerful, it was ultimately a weapon without a master. It could not unleash 100% of its power. The zither devil's hand continued to break through the lightning and grabbed at spring lightning. However, at that moment, Guqin music suddenly rang out. The crowd was stunned. Who would dare to play Guqin music at a time like this? No, it's not just one Guqin music. Suddenly, the crowd realized something and their faces were filled with shock. All the Gyukins around them started to play on their own, letting out a melodious Guqin music. What's going on? Li Changyin looked at the Guqin in her hand, shocked and confused. Look, it's him. At that moment, the crowd looked not far away. They saw a black-haired young man in a white robe slowly walking towards them. His body emanated an extremely mysterious Guqin Daoist rhyme. Wherever he went, the strings of the Guqin seemed to be controlled by an invisible giant hand, letting out Guqin music as if they were welcoming the honorable Guqin. All the Guqin welcomed him. Sorry I'm late. Chu Kuangren looked at spring lightning not far away and smiled as if it was something that belonged to him. Chapter 523. Chu Kuangren arrived at the banquet of 10,000 Guqin and released a mysterious Guqin Daoist rhyme. All of a sudden, tens of thousands of Guqin greeted him. When everyone saw this, their faces were filled with indescribable shock. It was as if the person in front of them was the god of Guqin. Otherwise, why would there be such a phenomenon? It's him. How can it be him? Li Changyin's expression changed. He recognized Chu Kuangren. Besides him, many people at the scene recognized Chu Kuangren as well. When this person appeared at the Cloud Pavilion a few days ago, they thought that he knew nothing about Guqin Dao. However, the scene in front of them gave them a hard slap in the face. If the person in front of them knew nothing about Guqin Dao, then what were they? I can't believe what Brother Murong said was true. Yang Shiyun looked at Chu Kuangren's back with shock in her eyes. She suddenly remembered that Murong Xian once said that his sect leader also knew how to play the Guqin, and he played it better than her. That made the two of them fight for a while. She had forgotten about it after that. However, she now knew that Murong Xian did not lie to her. The Black Heaven sect leader was indeed an expert in Guqin Dao. Kid, who are you? The Guqin demon looked at Chu Kuangren, who suddenly appeared and stopped playing. He looked at him seriously. He could sense that the Guqin Daoist rhyme on the person in front of him was too extraordinary. It's master. Chu Kuangren pointed at the spring thunder and smiled. You flatter me. The Guqin demon snorted. The spring thunder had never been recognized as its master ever since it appeared. How could it have a master? Without another word, he pointed the demonic Guqin at Chu Kuangren and said coldly, I don't care who you are, you must die for trying to steal my Guqin. He pressed his fingers on the demonic Guqin and started playing. Chaotic Guqin music poured out like a group of demons dancing, eerie and terrifying. The surrounding void exploded under the Guqin music. It was terrifying. Li Changyin, Yang Shiyun, and the others quickly retreated, afraid that they would be affected by the Guqin music. Chu Kuangren stood still. When the Guqin music got close to him, it was blocked by an invisible mind power. Your Guqin music is really noisy. Chu Kuangren said indifferently. Then, he gently swiped his finger in the air. An invisible thread appeared, and there was a Guqin Daoist rhyme wrapped around it. Those were zither strings. Condensing qi into a string. Heaven and earth are the cord. The surrounding zither cultivators couldn't help but be shocked at this scene. The heaven and earth were the strings. This was the highest realm of the zither Dao. There were no strings in his hands, but wherever the Daoist rhyme touched, everything in the world, even a strand of hair, could be used as a zither string. The musical cultivators did not expect Chu Kuangren's musical Dao realm to have reached such a level. Even the zither devil's pupils constricted. Even he was still quite a distance away from the heaven and earth as a string realm. The person in front of him was able to use it so easily. This was simply too unbelievable. It's been a while since I've used the way of the zither against an opponent. You're lucky enough to witness it. Chu Kuangren chuckled. His fingers plucked at the chi strings that were condensing in the air, and a terrifying Guqin Daoist rhyme suddenly filled the air. Third celestial demonic chord, grand reverie. The strings moved and the sound of the zither rang out. The sound of the zither seemed to have traveled through countless years and came from ancient times. It carried with it an ancient, simple, and heavy aura. Amidst the rumble, the ancient Guqin sound instantly shattered the zither devil's frenzied zither music and slammed into the zither devil's body with a majestic aura. A mist of blood gushed out. The zither devil flew back a few dozen feet. He looked at Chu Kuangren with an indescribable shock in his eyes. This kind of Guqin music. How is this possible? Not far away, Gui, the Sea clan head, and the others who were fighting also stopped. They looked at Chu Kuangren with a face full of shock. Gui's expression changed. He dispersed the Daoist rhyme around him and quickly came to the zither devil's side. Brother zither devil, are you all right? The zither devil wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. It's not a big deal, but this person's musical Dao cultivation is unfathomable. I'm afraid I'm no match for him alone. It's fine. If you and I join forces, I don't believe we can't take him down. All right. The zither devil nodded. Gui's huge brush drew in the void. It was as if a large bucket of ink was poured into the void, and a large amount of ink was rendered. It was as if the entire world had turned into a painting. The painting was not of beautiful flowers and plants, nor was it of majestic mountains and rivers, let alone a beautiful woman. It was the 1,000 ghosts of hell. In the painting, a ferocious evil ghost formed from ink rushed towards Chu Kuangren and tried to devour him. The zither devil, on the other hand, sat cross-legged and plucked the demonic Guqin with all 10 fingers. A frenzied and eerie tune suddenly echoed between the heavens and the earth. The wails of the 1,000 ghosts were mixed with this eerie tune, multiplying its power. The terrifying Daoist rhyme filled the heavens and the earth, forming a scene of doomsday as it played the demonic music of madness. What a terrifying power! I can't believe the zither devil and Gui can unleash such power when they join forces. Oh my god, these two people's power is too terrifying. One by one, the young cultivators could not help but be dumbfounded when they saw the power displayed by the zither devil and Gui. This kind of power was too tyrannical. Even the Sea clan head and the other quasi-emperors felt their hearts palpitate. This power is probably close to the Emperor realm? The Sea clan head gulped and said. The Emperor realm was not a realm, but a collective term for those who were stronger than the boundary emperor but weaker than the Emperor realm. In the entire Emperor's path, there were not many who possessed the combat strength of an emperor. Most of them were the mainstays of the ancient orthodoxies. When the zither devil and Gui joined forces, they could unleash a power that was close to the Emperor realm. No wonder they dared to come to Seven-Cord City to steal the Spring Thunder. With such power, even if they could not defeat the combined forces of several ancient orthodoxies, no one would be able to stop them from leaving. The combination of the Guqin and the painting? That's interesting. Chu Kuangren smirked as he felt the terrifying pressure coming from all directions. It was rare for him to feel threatened. As the 1,000 ghosts approached, the sword chi around Chu Kuangren tore them apart one by one. However, Gui used his spiritual power as ink to form evil ghosts, so it was almost endless. In addition, the zither devil's Guqin music was getting more and more frenzied as if it was about to reach a whole new level. Young lad, this demonic hum ghost painting is the result of our 1,000 years of research. You should be honored that you're the first person to witness this power. Gui said coldly as he held a giant brush in his hand. Upon hearing that, the crowd finally realized why Gui and the zither devil had disappeared all these years. It turned out that they had gone to research the combination of the Guqin and the painting techniques. It was worth noting that the effect was very obvious. The Guqin and the painting, two different Daoist rhymes, two different techniques, and two different energies fused to form a brand new, earth-shattering power. It was a high degree of synergy between the Daoist rhymes of two boundary emperors. It was the rarest sight in the world. However, in the face of such a scene and such power, Chu Kuangren did not panic at all. His eyes were still as calm as ever. It was like a bottomless pool of ice, without a single ripple. You should be honored, because you're about to hear the most beautiful music in this world. This is a Guqin music played for the gods and demons. It's the true sound of nature. A terrifying Guqin Daoist rhyme erupted from Chu Kuangren's body as he yelled, "Guqin, come." Chapter 524. Guqin, come. Chu Kuangren let out a soft roar, and the Guqin Daoist rhyme that soared into the sky instantly triggered the emperor weapon, Spring Thunder. The spring thunder that countless Guqin cultivators had tried so hard to resonate with began to vibrate violently. A majestic Guqin Daoist rhyme that was mixed with Emperor's aura erupted and resonated with Chu Kuangren's Guqin Daoist rhyme. The emperor weapon, Spring Thunder, turned into a blue ray of lightning and disappeared from where it was, heading towards Chu Kuangren. In the blink of an eye, the emperor weapon, Spring Thunder, pierced through the painted ghost's world of painting and flew towards Chu Kuangren. Wherever it went, thousands of ghosts perished. The lightning stopped in front of Chu Kuangren and turned into the Spring Thunder. It was blue in color, with a crystal-clear body, beautiful patterns, an extraordinary Daoist rhyme. Everything showed how extraordinary this monarch weapon was. The prideful emperor weapon was now floating docilely in front of Chu Kuangren as if it was waiting for him to play. Chu Kuangren gently stroked the Spring Thunder's Guqin strings and murmured, "Acknowledge me as your master, and I shall use you to play the most beautiful music in this world." The Spring Thunder's Guqin body trembled slightly as if it was responding. Meanwhile, all the Guqin cultivators outside the world of painting were dumbfounded at the sight. They had tried their best but could not make the Spring Thunder budge at all, yet Chu Kuangren just played and the Spring Thunder immediately went to acknowledge him as its master. The difference between them was too obvious. I can't believe there's such a powerful Guqin Daoist in this world. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Even the Sea Clan head and a few other cultivators who stood at the pinnacle of Guqin Daoism were shocked by the scene before them. If it was just a simple Spring Thunder acknowledging him as its master, they would not be so surprised. However, the Spring Thunder's method of acknowledging him as its master was a challenge to their mental state. So what if you have the help of an emperor weapon? With the Guqin demon and the painted ghost working together, no one in this world can defeat you. The Guqin demon yelled. His expression gradually became crazed, and so did his Guqin music. It was the same for the painted ghost. Using his spiritual power as ink, he continuously painted all kinds of terrifying evil spirits. Chu Kuangren placed all 10 fingers on the Spring Thunder's Guqin strings. Have a taste of the celestial demonic music. With a clang, the Guqin music echoed. The first movement of the 8 demonic chords, boundless heaven and earth. The majestic sound of the vast expanse carried the power of heaven and earth as it impacted the world within the painting. The second song, Storm in the City. The sound of the zither transformed into countless wind blades, forming a terrifying storm that swept out and crushed the tens of thousands of ghosts. The third tune, Huang Zhong De Lu. The ancient sound of the zither exploded and pushed the zither demon back again. The fourth movement, Ambush from 10 sides. The sound of the zither came from all directions, crazily attacking the world in the painting. The fifth song, Swallowing 10,000 Li. The sixth song, Raging Waves Beating the Shore. The seventh song, Echoes of Heaven and Earth. During the seventh song, the entire world in the painting could no longer withstand the increasingly terrifying zither notes. Heaven and earth shook at the same time, and the world in the painting completely shattered. Both zither devil and painting ghost were instantly severely injured by this terrifying power. However, Chu Kuangren's Guqin music did not stop. The sound of the zither reverberated between heaven and earth. At this moment, countless people looked at the figure who was playing the Guqin, and there was nothing else in their eyes. There seemed to be only one person and one zither left in the world. The sound of the guqin reverberated, and everyone felt as if their ears had gone deaf. They could no longer hear anything. However, their souls were trembling uncontrollably. The feeling that Chu Kuangren's guqin music brought to them had surpassed their senses and reached their souls. Final 8 celestial demonic chords, grand note of silence. The final 8 celestial chords resounded, and an indescribable surge of guqin Daoist rhyme erupted like a torrent. It was silent, but it was earth-shattering. Grand note of silence, grand note of silence. This is the true grand note of silence. The Shi'in sect leader looked at Chu Kuangren with awe in her eyes. The reason why the Shi'in sect was called the Shi'in sect was because they believed in the simplicity of the great Tao and the grand note of silence. However, no one in the Shi'in sect had been able to do it for so many years. Now, she was witnessing it from an outsider. Grand note of silence, the majestic and boundless guqin Daoist rhyme instantly erupted and landed on the zither demon and painting ghost. The two peak quasi-emperors could no longer hold on under such a strong force. They were severely injured on the spot and were on their last breaths. Their boundary emperor bodies had been damaged to the point where they could no longer be repaired. The two of them lay on the ground, their brushes broken, and their guqin strings broken. The celestial demonic chords, it really is the celestial demonic chords. The zither demon looked at Chu Kuangren before he died, but there was not much resentment in his eyes. All he felt was an endless yearning, and a kind of satisfaction. The one who can play such guqin music, tell me your name. The zither demon looked at Chu Kuangren and asked curiously. Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren, Chu Kuangren. Huh, it might not be a bad thing to die to this kind of guqin music, are you satisfied? Knowing the Tao in the morning, one can die in the evening. The zither demon said calmly as the hostility on his face dissipated. In the end, he died with satisfaction. As for painting ghost, he did not feel the same way as he did. After all, he was a painter, so he did not feel the same way as the zither demon. He tried his best to take out a great shift talisman from his yin and yang ring, intending to crush it and leave. However, at that moment, a foot stepped on his wrist and kicked the great shift talisman away. Chu Kuangren looked at him and did not say anything. He pointed his finger and a ray of sword chi shot out, ending his opponent's last chance of survival. In the end, he kept their yin and yang rings. He had gained quite a lot this time. The Spring Thunder Saber recognizing him as its owner was his biggest gain. With this emperor weapon and his 8 celestial demonic chords, it would become one of Chu Kuangren's strongest techniques. Congratulations, Brother Chu, for gaining the emperor weapon's recognition. The Hope Sound sect master walked in front of Chu Kuangren with a fanatical look in her eyes. His demeanor was completely different from his previous indifferent demeanor. Brother Chu? Do you know this person, Hope Sound sect master? The Illusory Sound sect master asked curiously. Of course, Brother Chu is an honored guest of the Hope Sound sect, the Hope Sound sect master said with a smile. Chu Kuangren was even more intrigued when he heard that. He had been staying in the Hope Sound sect for a few days now, but other than the first time he met the Hope Sound sect master, no one paid any attention to him. Was he considered an honored guest? However, he did not say much. After all, Murong Xian was still in a relationship with Yang Xiyun, and they could very well become in-laws in the future. Since the Spring Thunder Saber has recognized you as its owner, you are now an honored guest of the Hope Sound sect. The Sea clan also welcomes you anytime, Brother Chu. A few boundary emperors expressed their desire to befriend Chu Kuangren. Putting aside Chu Kuangren's unparalleled musical Dao cultivation base, his strength alone was enough for them to befriend him. I can already tell that Brother Chu is a dragon among men back at the Cloud Pavilion. You're indeed extraordinary. That's right. Brother Chu, you've killed the zither demon. You've gotten rid of a great threat for our musical Dao. The other musical Dao cultivators also stepped forward to compliment him. However, there was one person who stared at Chu Kuangren with a cold look in his eyes. That person was Jian Chengfeng of the swordsmen. He looked at Chu Kuangren and sneered. Everyone, befriending someone depends on the person. If you make a mistake, you may lose your life. Chapter 525. Everyone, if you make a mistake, you may lose your life. Jian Chengfeng said coldly. Upon hearing his words, everyone had a strange look on their faces. They looked at Chu Kuangren, then at Jian Chengfeng, trying to guess what he meant. Did Chu Kuangren have a grudge against the swordsman? If I'm not mistaken, you must be the Chu Kuangren who killed the Sima clan head and the others at Sky Lake Mountain and stole the icy lotus, am I right? Yes, that's me. Chu Kuangren nodded with a playful smile on his face. His eye of revelation was already in operation, analyzing all the information about Jian Chengfeng. The swordsman's top-notch sky pride, dual mastery of the guqin and sword, and his combat strength was comparable to a top-notch sage ruler. Not bad. He was considered a top-notch sky pride, but unfortunately, he was nothing compared to Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren wanted to see what Jian Chengfeng was up to. You're now on the swordsman's blacklist. You better watch out for yourself. As soon as Jian Chengfeng finished speaking, he turned into a sword ray and flew away. Although he was a top-notch sky pride, he knew he was no match for Chu Kuangren after witnessing his combat strength. The only reason he showed up was to warn the Xi family, Illusory Sound sect, and a few other orthodoxies. Chu Kuangren also saw through his opponent's plan. He had to admit that his opponent's move was very effective. The forces and musical cultivators who wanted to befriend Chu Kuangren earlier were shocked when they heard that Chu Kuangren had a grudge against the swordsman, and they immediately stayed away from him. They were as cold as they had been earlier. Some of them even looked at Chu Kuangren as if he was a dead man. Offending the swordsman in the emperor's path was no different from courting death. Brother Chu, just pretend that I didn't say anything. The seven-string guqin society has nothing to do with you. The Illusory Sound sect master then looked at the spring thunder in his opponent's hand and said, "This emperor weapon, please, why, you want to go back?" Before the Illusory Sound sect master could finish his sentence, Chu Kuangren spoke on his behalf. He said playfully, "Didn't the Guqin Society organize this banquet to find a new owner for the Emperor weapon? Now that the Emperor weapon has recognized me as its owner, you want to go back? Do you have no shame?" Upon hearing Chu Kuangren's words, the Illusory Sound sect master's expression turned grim, but he had nothing to say. Unable to get it back, and unable to defeat him, the three guild leaders of the Guqin concert could not do anything to Chu Kuangren. Humph. The Illusory Sound sect master snorted coldly and left. Meanwhile, the Hopian clan leader looked at Chu Kuangren with a look of pity in her eyes. It's such a shame that a musical Daoist genius like you has offended the swordsman. She was already thinking about how to distance herself from Chu Kuangren and the others. After leaving Seven Flux City, Jian Chengfeng passed by a mountain range. All of a sudden, a strange fluctuation appeared in the void. His keen senses told him that something was amiss. A quasi-emperor longsword appeared in his hand, and he coldly scanned the surroundings. Who is it? Show yourself. Tisk tsk, as expected of a direct descendant of the fourth elder. To be able to detect me. A pitch-black shadow appeared beside Jian Chengfeng. That person wore a long black robe and exuded a treacherous aura. When this person appeared, Jian Chengfeng felt that the surrounding temperature had dropped significantly. Shadow Blade Master? Jian Chengfeng recognized the attire of the person before him. It was the most powerful and secretive troop of the swordsmen, the Shadow Blade Master. That's right. I'm the Shadow Blade Master, the Grudge Blade Master. Why have you suddenly appeared in front of me? Jian Chengfeng put away his long sword and said. To be honest, I have a small favor to ask of you. Oh, the Shadow Blade Master is asking for my help? That's interesting. Tell me about it. It's about Chu Kuangren. After the Myriad Zither banquet ended, Chu Kuangren returned to the Hope Sound sect. However, not long after he returned, the Hope Sound sect leader came looking for him. I've only just returned, and Brother Lin is already here. What's the matter? Chu Kuangren smiled at the Hope Sound sect leader. Since the Hope Sound sect leader's surname was Lin, Chu Kuangren had always addressed her as Brother Lin. I'm here to ask Brother Chu and the people of the Black Heavens sect to leave the Hope Sound sect immediately. The Hope Sound sect leader did not beat around the bush and immediately stated her intention. Beside her, Yang Xian's expression changed slightly. Honorable teacher, Xian, don't interfere in this matter. Just as Yang Xian was about to say something, she was interrupted by the Hope Sound sect leader. Chu Kuangren was not surprised when he heard the Hope Sound sect leader's words. It was as if he had expected it. What a pity. I was hoping to find a chance to interact more with Brother Lin. Perhaps we'll have a chance to become in-laws in the future. There's no chance for that. The Hope Sound sect leader coldly glanced at Murong Xian beside her. He's not worthy to be the son-in-law of the Hope Sound sect. Honorable teacher. What have Brother Murong and the others done wrong? Why do you have to treat them this way? Yang Xian could not help but ask loudly. Offending the swordsmen is their biggest mistake. The Hope Sound sect leader shouted coldly. The swordsmen? Do they think they can do whatever they want? Silly child, the swordsman's heritage can't be compared to 10 Hope Sound sects. If they want to kill someone, no one can protect them. Yang Xian heard that and looked at Murong Xian with a helpless and worried expression. On one side was where her heart belonged, and on the other side was her honorable teacher and the sect that raised her. She was caught in the middle and was in a dilemma. Xian, the swordsmen are powerful. The Hope Sound sect leader is only doing this to protect you and the Hope Sound sect. I can understand that. Murong Xian looked at Yang Xian and comforted her. It's good that you think this way. I won't make things difficult for you. Seeing that you've saved Xian before, I'll give you 50 kilograms of spiritual source. Take it. The Hope Sound sect leader took out a yin and yang ring. Her meaning was very clear. Take this spiritual source and break up with my disciple. Go far away and never come back. I saved Xian. That's my business. I'm not asking you to repay me. Please take this spiritual source back, sect leader. Humph, pretending to be virtuous. The Hope Sound sect leader snorted. To her, Murong Xian was a sky pride from the outside world. How much spiritual source could he have after entering the Emperor's path? 50 kilograms of spiritual source was considered a considerable asset in the Emperor's path. In the outside world, that was equivalent to 10 billion top-tier soul stones. As for the spiritual source, the Black Heavens sect has plenty of it. You don't have to worry about it, Brother Lin. Chu Kuangren stepped forward and said. He did not even look at the yin and yang ring before he left with Xianxia. Murong Xian and Yang Xian looked at each other. Both of them were reluctant to leave. Xian, trust me. I'll overcome all the difficulties and come back for you. Murong Xian took a deep breath and said solemnly. After that, he turned around and caught up to Chu Kuangren and Xianxia. Murong Xian did not say a word along the way. He seemed to be immersed in the sadness of parting with Yang Xian. What's wrong? You can't even handle such a small setback. Chu Kuangren raised his eyebrows. At that moment, Murong Xian lifted his head and looked at the end of the Emperor's path. He said firmly, Sect leader, I want to become an emperor. Chapter 526. Sect leader, I want to become an emperor. Murong Xian suddenly said with determination. Chu Kuangren, who heard him, had a strange look in his eyes. He then smiled and nodded. Good. I'm glad that you have such ambition. It was great that Murong Xian did not fall into depression. In fact, Murong Xian's Daoist core was strong enough that he would not fall into depression over this matter. I want to become an emperor. Only by becoming an emperor can I break through all obstacles. What swordsman? What Hope Sound sect? They can all go to hell. Murong Xian looked at the end of the emperor's path with an unprecedented fighting spirit. The power of love is indeed great. Xianxia, who was beside him, marveled. After the three left Hope Sound sect, they went to an inn in Seven Chord City and stayed there for the time being. Although the Emperor weapon, Spring Thunder, had already recognized its master, Chu Kuangren still needed to refine it before he could fully unleash its power. Since Spring Thunder had recognized its master, the process was not too long. Coupled with his current cultivation level, it took less than 2 days for Chu Kuangren to completely refine the Spring Thunder. During this process, a piece of news suddenly came. Jian Changfeng of the swordsmen had suddenly challenged Chu Kuangren to a duel at Night City, which was not far from Seven Chord City. Regarding this sudden news, everyone in Seven String City was incomparably shocked. Although Jian Changfeng was quite powerful and was one of the top skyprides in the Emperor's path, Chu Kuangren's strength had far surpassed his when he battled the Guqin demon, painted ghost 2 days ago. Where did Jian Changfeng get the confidence to challenge Chu Kuangren? Shang Qingxue and Murong Xian were puzzled too. Is this guy out of his mind? I don't think it's that simple. There must be something we don't know about. Inside the inn, Murong Xian and Shang Qingxue were conversing. At that time, Chu Kuangren had also come out of his closed-door meditation. Then, Murong Xian told him about Jian Changfeng. After listening, Chu Kuangren could not help but reveal a playful look. Challenge me? Where does this guy get his courage from? Sect leader, there must be a trick behind this. Heh, that's for sure. But since we have nothing better to do anyway, we might as well see what this guy is up to. Chu Kuangren said with interest. Then, he asked Murong Xian and Shang Qingxue to stay in the inn for the time being. For safety's sake, he left a strand of sword qi on each of them. This sword qi could be used to defend against enemies, and at the same time, it could also be used by Chu Kuangren to locate their whereabouts. This way, he would not lose contact with them like before. After making the necessary preparations, Chu Kuangren headed to Night Light City to find out what was going on. Compared to Seven Flux City, Yi City was just a small city. However, a few days ago, the city suddenly lost all contact with the outside world. The entire city seemed to be enveloped by an invisible force. Looking at Yi City from the outside, there was not a single person in the city. It was empty, like a ghost city. When Chu Kuangren arrived in the sky above Night City, he noticed that something was amiss. This is the mark of a formation. In order to set up the astonishing Cloud of Seas formation in the past, Chu Kuangren had studied formations on his own for a period of time. His attainments couldn't be said to be very deep, but he could still detect the extremely obvious traces of an array formation around Yi City. Someone has set up a huge formation in Night Light City. Is it Jian Changfeng? No, I've used the Eye of Revelation to look at him, but I didn't find any information about him knowing about formations. It must be someone else who set up this formation. There was indeed something fishy going on in Night Light City. In a flash, Chu Kuangren stepped into Night Light City. Once he stepped into Night Light City, it was as if he had entered another world. It was a purgatory. Around Chu Kuangren, the people and cultivators of Night Light City were all lying on the ground, lifeless. The air was filled with the thick stench of blood. Chu Kuangren frowned and spread his spiritual thoughts outwards. The elderly, the children, the women, the cultivators, not even a dog or a bird survived. Not a single one of them was spared. It was not that there were no people in Night Light City. Instead, they were all dead people. The scene in front of them was too shocking. Although Night Light City was not large in size, it still had a population of tens of millions. Yet now, not a single one of them was left alive. Before this, there had been no news at all. Who did this? Is it just to deal with me? A cold murderous intent shot out from Chu Kuangren's eyes. In a flash, he arrived at the center of Night Light City. There was a tall building there, and on top of it stood a white-robed young man. This person had a long sword on his waist and a guqin on his back. He looked extraordinarily handsome. This person was the one who challenged Chu Kuangren to a duel, Jian Changfeng. I'm here. Tell your companions to come out too. Let's end this quickly, shall we? Chu Kuangren said. Oh, aren't you curious as to why everyone in this city died? They're already dead. What can we do even if we don't know? TSK, what a cold-hearted guy. You should know that these people died because of you. Jian Changfeng laughed as he stared at Chu Kuangren, wanting to see his expression. However, to his disappointment, Chu Kuangren's expression did not change at all. If you're trying to mess with my Daoist core, then you're sorely mistaken. Chu Kuangren said calmly. His Daoist core was as firm as a rock. Ever since he embarked on the path of cultivation, no one could shake it. There was no need to even mention Jian Changfeng's words. I don't think even a cultivator who cultivates the heartless Dao has a heart as cold as yours. Aren't you afraid that these people will turn into evil spirits and seek revenge on you? You talk too much. Chu Kuangren's eyes turned cold. Before the descendant self-sword appeared on his waist, a cold sword chi shot out from his eyes. Jian Changfeng's expression changed. He immediately pulled out his long sword and unleashed a sword chi of his own. However, compared to Chu Kuangren's sword chi, Jian Changfeng's sword chi was far too weak. The moment the sword chi collided, Jian Changfeng's sword chi was instantly shattered. The cold sword chi then landed on Jian Changfeng's sage body like a hot knife through butter. Without any suspense, Jian Changfeng's body was instantly sliced in half. However, the strange thing was that no blood spurted out of his body. With a burst of smoke, Jian Changfeng's body turned into a wooden puppet and fell to the ground. The wooden puppet had been sliced in half by the sword chi, and mysterious runes were carved on it. A strange runic power circulated before it disappeared. Oh, a wooden puppet with runes carved on it. It even has a runic power that I've never seen before. Interesting. Chu Kuangren smirked as he looked into the distance. The real Jian Changfeng was standing dozens of kilometers away, staring at Chu Kuangren with fear in his eyes. His forehead was dripping with cold sweat. How terrifying. If I didn't activate the wooden puppet in time, the real me would have been sliced in half by the sword chi. He didn't even draw his sword. Just a single strand of sword chi possesses such power. Not only does this person have unfathomable attainments in the way of the zither, even his attainments in the way of the sword are countless times greater than mine. He can even stand shoulder to shoulder with the son of Dao. Jian Changfeng said with lingering fear. Chapter 527. You even have to use such a perverted technique to block my sword chi. Where do you get the courage to challenge me? Chu Kuangren looked at Jian Changfeng, who was not far away, and said. However, a terrifying surge of Daoist rhymes suddenly erupted behind Jian Changfeng, and a black shadow flew out from his back and headed towards Chu Kuangren. So the real challenger is here. Chu Kuangren stared at the black shadow with a strange look in his eyes. He then raised his sword and slashed. A domineering purple sword ray poured out. With a loud slash, the sword chi sliced the black shadow in half. A black robe that was torn in half fell from the sky. From that black robe, a skinny black shadow had already crawled out and arrived in front of Chu Kuangren. He then raised his sword and stabbed out. That sword attack came from a tricky angle. It was like a venomous snake that had been charging for a long time, and it carried an extremely ruthless and brutal aura. At that moment, Chu Kuangren felt like he was being targeted by an ancient ferocious beast. Not bad. Chu Kuangren smirked, and the descendant self-sword in his hand collided with that sword at an even faster and more tricky speed. Sparks burst out from the two swords, and a piercing sword chi poured out in all directions. A terrifying surge of energy erupted from the descendant's self-sword, sending that skinny figure flying hundreds of feet away. After that person stabilized himself, Chu Kuangren looked over and saw that it was a skinny, gloomy old man with sunken eyes. Your movement technique is not bad. You managed to get close to me, and your sword technique is not bad either. You were able to block one of my attacks. Chu Kuangren looked at that old man and said. That was already a very high evaluation from him. That alone was enough to show that the old man's strength was much stronger than most boundary emperors. Even the mountain sword sentinel that Chu Kuangren encountered before was slightly weaker. TSK, I can't believe there's a sky pride like you in the outside world. What a surprise. However, since you've offended my swordsman tribe, you must die. The old man clicked his tongue. Even though they were enemies, that did not stop him from praising Chu Kuangren. Upon hearing that, Chu Kuangren said calmly, "All right, you can show me your trump card now." He did not think that his opponent would massacre the entire Dawn city just to choose a duel venue. There was also this formation. These dead people must have some sort of use. At the thought of this, he activated his Eye of Revelation and scanned the old man. Grudge Sword Guard, one of the shadow sword guards of the Sword Clan. He cultivates the sword of grudge, resentment. So that was how it was. A look of realization flashed across Chu Kuangren's eyes. Chu Kuangren, you should feel honored to have so many people die with you. The resentful sword guard laughed strangely. An eerie and terrifying sword-based Daoist rhyme suddenly erupted from his body. This Daoist rhyme turned into a dark red pillar of qi that shot into the sky, resonating with the array formation that was set up around Yi City. In an instant, a large amount of scarlet resentment rose from the corpses strewn all over Yi City and gathered in the sky. More and more resentment gathered in the sky like a torrent, forming a terrifying cloud of resentment that enveloped a radius of 100 miles. The domineering aura contained within such resentment was naturally extremely terrifying. At this moment, Chu Kuangren felt as if he was in purgatory as the wailing of the undead could be heard from all directions. Such a scene was even worse than the combined attack of the Zither demon and the painted demon. The combined attack of the Zither demon and the painted demon was merely a manifestation of Daoist rhyme's spiritual power. However, the resentment that permeated the surroundings was real. It was formed from the blood of tens of millions of living beings. There was a fundamental difference between the two. Chu Kuangren, I've never used this great blood vengeance formation. I'm sure you can guess the reason why. It's because every time I use this formation, I have to sacrifice a large number of living beings. This time, to kill you, I've sacrificed an entire city, which is the lives of tens of millions of living beings. With so many people dying with you, Chu Kuangren, what do you think now? The resentful sword guard laughed out loud. He felt that he had already won. Even the resentful sword guard himself did not know how terrifying the power of the great blood vengeance formation that was formed from the sacrifice of tens of millions of living beings. However, he knew that not even 10 mountain sword guardsmen could compare to such power. He might even be able to fight against an emperor realm cultivator. Other than killing you, I have no other thoughts. Chu Kuangren's tone was indifferent, but his eyes revealed an extremely cold murderous intent. The resentful sword guard could not help but feel a chill down his spine. Kill. To prevent any more trouble, the resentful sword guard immediately activated the formation's power. The blood-red cloud of resentment in the sky surged towards Chu Kuangren. It was a terrifying torrent of resentment. Upon closer inspection, there were many vengeful spirits within the scarlet cloud of resentment. Some were elderly, some were children, and some were women. These were the people who had died in Dawn City. At this moment, these people had turned into ferocious vengeful spirits under the resentful sword guard's control. They charged towards Chu Kuangren to claim his life. I don't want to die. Why? Why did you offend the swordsman? Why did you drag us into this? Why aren't you the one who died? These vengeful spirits wailed and stared at Chu Kuangren with resentful eyes, trying to distract his mind. That was one of the most powerful aspects of the Great Blood Vengeance formation. Ordinary cultivators who entered it would have their minds corroded and be at the mercy of the vengeful spirits. Even a boundary emperor would be greatly affected, and their combat strength would be greatly reduced. To the resentful sword guard, no matter how powerful or demonic Chu Kuangren was, his lifespan was limited. No matter how strong his Daoist core was, it could never be compared to those powerful boundary emperors. That was the difference in experience, age, and experience. It was not something that talent could make up for. However, what shocked the grieving sword sentinel was the fact that Chu Kuangren remained calm despite the curses of the vengeful spirit. It was as if his Daoist core had been through the vicissitudes of life and was now impenetrable. How can this be? How can he have such a Daoist core? Not only is his talent powerful enough to kill a boundary emperor, but his Daoist core is also so indestructible? The resentful sword guard was shocked. Unparalleled talent, indestructible Daoist core, that was what a true demon was like. At that moment, Chu Kuangren made his move. He gently lifted his arm, and a majestic Buddhist light poured out from his body. It was like a great sun that illuminated the land. Buddhist light? Is this guy a Buddhist cultivator? Just as the resentful sword guard was in a state of shock, the Buddhist light on Chu Kuangren's body grew brighter and brighter. As the Buddhist light circulated, it gradually formed into an ancient Buddha. The ancient Buddha looked at the vengeful spirits in front of it with a pitiful expression and chanted. Then, it slowly unleashed a palm attack. The majestic Buddhist light shattered the torrent of vengeful qi that surged out from Chu Kuangren. Countless vengeful spirits were purified by that power, but the giant Buddha palm continued to move forward and grabbed the huge cloud of vengeful qi. The ancient Buddha palm landed on the cloud of vengeful qi, and the Buddhist light exploded from within the cloud. Rays of golden light shot out from within the red cloud of vengeful qi. Then, the cloud of vengeful qi exploded. The great blood vengeance formation that enveloped the entire night city shook violently and gradually collapsed. Chapter 528. The entire Dawn city shook violently from Chu Kuangren's palm attack. That kind of power terrified the resentful sword sentinel. Not to mention that it was a Buddhist light that was specifically used to restrain his resentment qi. Even the most virtuous monk of the Putuo temple might not have such a powerful Buddhist light. What's up with this person? Not only is he proficient in Guqin Dao and Sword Dao, but he also has such a terrifying Buddhist Dao cultivation base. Where did he get the energy to learn so many techniques? The resentful sword sentinel was shocked. Jian Changfeng, who was watching from afar, was even more dumbfounded. His face was filled with disbelief. He had seen the forbidden sky pride before. However, from his point of view, even the legendary forbidden sky pride in his tribe could not compare to Chu Kuangren. A person like that had surpassed the boundaries of the word sky pride. Boom boom boom. The great blood grudge formation that enveloped the entire Dawn city shook violently as if it would collapse at any moment. When the resentful sword sentinel saw that, he let out a low roar. How can you destroy the great formation that I've painstakingly set up so easily? An incredibly powerful suction force erupted from his body, and the surrounding resentment qi surged towards him like a river flowing into the ocean. The resentful sword sentinel was absorbing the resentment qi into his body. Chu Kuangren watched from the side without stopping him. Come, let me see what else you have up your sleeves. Roar. As the resentment qi continued to enter his body, the resentful sword sentinel's frail body began to expand like a balloon. Very quickly, his thin and weak body grew several times bigger. His originally shriveled skin gradually became plump, and his white hair also became jet black. Blue veins popped up on his sturdy body, making him look like a dormant horned dragon. His muscles looked as if they were made of molten iron, giving off a powerful visual impact. With just one look, one could tell how terrifying the power contained in his body was. Not only that, but strange blood-colored patterns appeared on the resentful sword sentinel's body as well, giving off a demonic vibe. Oh, so you've regained your youth. Chu Kuangren looked at the resentful sword sentinel and chuckled as he activated his eye of revelation. The resentment qi has entered my body, and I've used a special technique to fuse it with my spiritual power to transform my body. However, my lifespan will be shortened. In other words, this isn't rejuvenation, but the final radiance of a setting sun. Upon hearing Chu Kuangren's words, the grudge sword sentinel was shocked as well. I didn't expect you to be able to see through my condition. This is something that even an Emperor Realm cultivator might not be able to do. It seems like you have a lot of secrets hidden within you. But it doesn't matter. Once I kill you, all your secrets will be mine. The eyes of the resentful sword guard revealed a fanatical look. He could not wait to find out what kind of secrets Chu Kuangren had. Putting everything else aside, just the monarch armament that Zhang Xian had on him was already a huge fortuitous encounter. You want to kill me? You think you can kill me in this state? Kiki, as long as I can get rid of the resentment within a certain period of time, I will be safe. The resentful sword guard laughed coldly. Without hesitation, he attacked. His figure flashed, his speed almost exceeding the limit that an ordinary quasi-emperor's spiritual sense could capture. From Jian Changfeng's perception, the resentful sword guard's body turned into an afterimage before disappearing. What a fast movement technique! Chu Kuangren murmured as he spread his spiritual thoughts around him. Chu Kuangren had the telekinesis talent, so his spiritual thoughts were extremely sensitive. Not only could he see, but his spiritual thoughts also had 5 senses. It was as if he had countless clones. No matter how fast the resentful sword guard was, it was impossible for him to escape Chu Kuangren's perception. Chu Kuangren swung his descendant self-sword to the left. Clang! The two swords collided with each other. The huge impact forced both Chu Kuangren and the resentful sword guard to retreat. You can actually track my movements? The resentful sword guard was a little surprised, but he quickly regained his composure and attacked again. Blood grudge slash. The overwhelming resentment chi in his long sword condensed into a dark red sword shadow that was thousands of meters long. As the sword descended, the 1,000-meter-long sword shadow slashed towards Chu Kuangren, accompanied by waves of soul-devouring wails. Heaven-slaying sword-drawing technique. Faced with the terrifying sword chi, Chu Kuangren's foundation levels unleashed a boundless divine radiance. When his 3 Daoist physiques appeared, a majestic sword ray rushed towards the sword's shadow like a purple torrent that tore through the heavens and earth. 2 surges of energy instantly erupted. The 2 surges of sword chi intertwined and turned into a sword chi pillar that shot into the sky. The great blood grudge formation could no longer withstand the impact of this energy. With a loud bang, the great blood grudge formation shattered. Along with the destruction of the formation, a terrifying energy fluctuation was released, which was felt by countless strong cultivators. Surges of spiritual thought surged over to Dawn City. When they saw the battle between Chu Kuangren and the resentful sword guard, they could not help but be shocked. With such strength, I'm afraid they're close to an Emperor Realm cultivator. So strong. Who are these 2 people? That white-robed young man is Chu Kuangren, the one who obtained the Emperor weapon of 7-String City. His musical Dao is so profound that even the Guqin demon, the painted ghost, was no match for him. I didn't expect him to have several supreme Daoist physiques. This is just too unbelievable. This person's talent is definitely not inferior to any of the Forbidden Sky Prides. In fact, he might even surpass them. The surges of spiritual thoughts conversed. Meanwhile, the battle between Chu Kuangren and the resentful sword guard had gradually entered a white-hot stage. Chu Kuangren, aren't you an expert in musical Dao? Where's your Guqin? The resentful sword guard raised his sword, and the majestic resentment chi turned into a giant blood-red sword shadow that forced Chu Kuangren back. You want to listen to my Guqin? Do you have the resolve to die for such a beautiful piece of music? Chu Kuangren raised his arm, and a bolt of lightning shot out from his body. The lightning bolt was so powerful that it contained a terrifying aura that it directly smashed onto the resentful sword guard's body. The resentful sword guard was forced back by the lightning bolt. Following that, the lightning bolt wandered in the void and landed in front of Chu Kuangren, where it turned into a gorgeous azure-colored Guqin. It was the Emperor weapon, Spring Thunder. 8 celestial demonic chords, great chime reverberation. Chu Kuangren plucked the strings of the Guqin with his fingers, and a Guqin Daoist rhyme wrapped in majestic sound waves blasted towards the resentful sword guard. The resentful sword guard raised his arm and unleashed a slash, and the majestic resentment chi collided with the sound waves. Chu Kuangren stood his ground, his snow-white robe unmoving. On the other hand, the resentful sword guard was forced back a few meters with a solemn expression. This person's musical Dao is indeed extraordinary. I need more resentment chi. The resentful sword guard murmured. Once again, a surge of suction force erupted around him, and the resentment chi that had yet to dissipate surged into his body like a tidal wave. As the resentment chi increased, the resentful sword guard's expression gradually became more ferocious. Roar! The resentful sword guard let out a low roar that did not sound like a human's, and his eyes were filled with an unparalleled ruthlessness. Chu Kuangren, die! The resentful sword guard let out a thunderous roar that shook the entire Dawn city. He charged towards Chu Kuangren, and his overwhelming resentment chi almost covered half the sky. Facing the resentful sword guard who was like a mad demon, Chu Kuangren flicked his fingers and played the 8 celestial demonic chords continuously. Chapter 529. While Chu Kuangren was battling the grudge sword sentinel in Dawn City. In Seven Chord City, Murong Xian and Shang Qingxue were in trouble too. There was no one in the tavern. A woman in a black robe stood before Murong Xian and Shang Qingxue. She was a peerless beauty with a gentle gaze that could mesmerize 99% of the men in the world. However, that did not include Murong Xian. He already had someone in his heart, and he could sense a threat from the woman before him. Who are you? Murong Xian frowned. The Phantom Blade Sentinel of the Swordsman tribe, the Phantom Blade Sentinel. The Phantom Blade Sentinel smiled and looked at the two. It's all thanks to the grudge sword sentinel luring Chu Kuangren away that I had the chance to deal with you too. Deal with us? Are you trying to use us to threaten our sect leader? Shang Qingxue looked at the Phantom Blade Sentinel and said. She knew that she and Murong Xian were not worthy of the swordsman's attention. Their ultimate target was Chu Kuangren. Oh my, this young lady is really smart. Too bad that you can't change anything even if you know. The Phantom Blade Sentinel turned into a black shadow and charged towards Shang Qingxue. Shang Qingxue raised her hand and a majestic chill gushed out. The terrifying cold air froze the void in an instant. The faces of the succubus sword guards who were charging forward changed slightly. They could not help but retreat a few dozen feet and looked at Shang Qingxue with fear. I didn't expect you to have such strength. This cold air. You have the frost Daoist physique? She was a little surprised. Even if she was in frost physique, she should not have such a horrifying chill. Even Murong Xian beside her was surprised. Qingxue, it seems like you've had an extraordinary encounter too. Me too. Shang Qingxue smiled playfully. We'll talk about that later. Let's deal with the Phantom Blade Sentinel first. I'm afraid this person won't be easy to deal with. Murong Xian smiled and looked at the Phantom Blade Sentinel. Even though both he and Shang Qingxue had improved a lot and had their own encounters after entering the Emperor's path, they still did not dare to be careless against the Phantom Blade Sentinel. Humph, two geniuses from the outside world. I don't believe that you two are that strong. The mystic sword guard snorted coldly. As one of the supreme geniuses of the sword clan, she was second only to Jian Daozi. She had her own pride, and apart from Jian Daozi and the other forbidden geniuses, she feared no one. Go! Murong Xian and Shang Qingxue attacked the mystic sword guards from both sides. The other party wanted to capture them to threaten Chu Kuangren. At this moment, they could not be bothered to talk about morality and justice. So be it if they wanted to bully Chu Kuangren with numbers. 3 people, 3 swords instantly collided together. Murong Xian's blazing tyranny, Shang Qingxue's icy frost, the mystic sword guard's darkness and treachery. The moment the 3 sword Daos collided, the entire inn instantly exploded. The mystic sword guards were the strongest. However, when faced with Murong Xian and Shang Qingxue joining forces, they were unable to do anything to them. Damn it! I've underestimated their strength. Aside from Chu Kuangren, I didn't expect the 2 disciples beside him to have such strength as well. What kind of sect is the Black Heaven sect? The mystic sword guard thought to herself and went all out against the 2. However, no matter how hard she tried, she could not gain too much of an advantage against the two. D***, looks like I have to use that thing. The mystic sword guard gritted her teeth. Now that Chu Kuangren had left, she only had one chance to succeed. Once Chu Kuangren returned, she would not have another chance. She then took out a medicinal pill and swallowed it. In an instant, an eerie and dark sword chi erupted from the mystic sword guard's body. Obscurity sword domain. Countless black sword chi intertwined in the void. Like the night sky, it enveloped a 10-kilometer radius, forming a dark domain. Be careful, Xianxia. Her strength has suddenly increased by a lot. This level of strength is already at the boundary emperor level. Shang Xianxia and Murong Xian's expressions turned grim. You shall be defeated. The mystic sword guard raised her arm and unleashed a black sword chi. That sword chi contained a surge of darkness-based Daoist rhyme. It was as if the entire night sky was crushing down on them. Shang Xianxia and Murong Xian's expressions changed slightly. However, at that moment, a ray of purple sword chi suddenly shot out from Murong Xian's body. The sword chi was like a flood that shattered the mystic sword guard's sword chi and landed on the pitch-black night sky. The night sky that was formed by countless dark sword chi was forcefully torn open, and a large number of cracks gradually spread out from that opening. As the sun shone in, the obscurity sword domain was broken. The mystic sword guard was horrified at the sight. What kind of sword chi is this? It broke through her sword chi with one strike, and then broke her domain. Such strength was considered top-notch even among the boundary emperors. It's the sword chi left behind by the sect leader. Shang Xianxia exclaimed in surprise. Following that, a ray of sword chi also shot out from her body. That sword chi materialized in the void and turned into a white-robed figure. It was Chu Kuangren. An incredibly powerful sword Dao aura spread out from Chu Kuangren and locked onto the mystic sword guard. It was the mystic sword guard's first time facing Chu Kuangren's sword Dao aura. She instantly felt her scalp go numb, and a hint of fear appeared on her delicate face. Such power, how is it possible? Didn't Chu Kuangren go and deal with the grudge sword guard? No, this is one of his spiritual thought clones. Upon realizing this, the mystic sword guard did not look happy at all. On the contrary, she looked even more terrified. If a spiritual thought clone could have such a domineering aura, then how powerful would his real body be? Could the exalted Jian Daozi really stand up to such an existence? For the first time in her life, the mystic sword guard doubted Jian Daozi. This was because the strength that Chu Kuangren had displayed was too terrifying, and it had exceeded her understanding of sky prides. Oh, so this was your plan? You got someone to lure me away, then come and capture Murong and the others to threaten me? Chu Kuangren said in a cold tone. Although it was just a spiritual thought clone, the mystic sword guard felt like a peerless killing god. Run! Unable to suppress the fear in her heart, the mystic sword guard turned and fled. Run? Do you think you can? Chu Kuangren turned into a sword ray and appeared in front of the mystic sword guard in the blink of an eye. The mystic sword guard yelled and slashed out with her sword. Facing this attack, Chu Kuangren focused his sword finger and slowly pointed it towards the mystic sword guard. The speed of this sword finger was not fast, and it was slowly unleashed. However, it was like the might of the heavens, majestic and unparalleled. Before the mystic sword guard's sword could land on Chu Kuangren's body, it was already crushed by that horrifying domineering aura and immediately dispersed. Chu Kuangren's sword finger landed on the mystic sword guard's chest like a hot knife through butter. Bang! The sword chi directly pierced through the mystic sword guard's body, and a mist of blood gushed out from her back. With just one attack, the mystic sword guard had lost all ability to resist. Xianxia, Murong, take care of her. Don't let her die, and wait for my return. Chu Kuangren said calmly, as if he had other plans for the mystic sword guard. Then, his figure disappeared into the void. Thousands of kilometers away in Night City, Chu Kuangren stared at the grudge sword guard with a cold murderous intent. All right, I won't play with you anymore. As he pressed all 10 of his fingers on the guqin strings, the Daoist rhymes in the guqin music became even more majestic. Chapter 530. Chu Kuangren plucked the strings of the spring thunder guqin with all 10 of his fingers, adding a surge of heavenly might to the guqin music. It was the heavenly punishment Daoist rhyme. As the guqin music spread, wave after wave, its majestic aura shook everything within a 1,000-kilometer radius. Countless living beings who heard the guqin music fell to the ground. It was an instinctive reverence for the heavenly might. Needless to say, the grudge sword sentinel, who was facing the guqin music head-on, was even more so. Even though he had the resentment qi in his body, which greatly increased his combat strength, he still could not defend against such power. His sturdy body began to crack, and cracks began to appear. How can this be? How can this be? No, no. The grudge sword sentinel screamed in horror. One after another, resentful spirits formed from the condensed resentment qi continuously emerged from his cracked body. D***mnet, go back. The grudge sword sentinel waved his hands as if he wanted to push the resentful spirits back. However, his efforts were futile. The resentment qi had entered his body for too long. Coupled with the influence of the 8 celestial demonic cords, he was already at the end of his tether. Countless resentful spirits emerged from his body, but they did not dissipate. Each of them stared at the grudge sword sentinel with hatred in their eyes. Give me back my life. I'll kill you. One by one, the resentful spirits charged at the grudge sword sentinel and began to devour his body. At that point, the grudge sword sentinel had lost the ability to control the resentful qi and was now being attacked by the resentful spirits. No. As the resentful qi continued to drain, the grudge sword sentinel's sturdy body gradually shriveled, and his consciousness began to return. However, when he saw the resentful eyes of the resentful spirits, he fell into a state of unprecedented fear. The pain from the backlash of thousands of resentful spirits was not something he could withstand. Along with a series of screams, the grudge sword sentinel was drowned by the resentful spirits. The grudge sword sentinel, who used to control resentful qi to dominate the world, finally died at the hands of the resentful qi that he was most proud of. It had to be said that this was indeed ironic. Chu Kuangren looked at the cruel scene before him with a calm expression as he kept his emperor weapon, Spring Thunder. You reap what you sow. Then, he looked into the distance. A figure could be seen flying into the distance. It was Jian Changfeng, who was trying to flee when he saw that he could not win. Where can you go? Chu Kuangren's gaze turned cold as he lifted his hand and unleashed an invisible wave of mind power. Jian Changfeng felt as if he had been pinched by an invisible hand and his body was uncontrollably fixed in midair. What's going on? Jian Changfeng was somewhat horrified. He didn't sense any spiritual power fluctuations at all, so he didn't know how he was being controlled. Then, he could only watch helplessly as Chu Kuangren walked towards him. What do you want? I'm a genius of the sword race. If you kill me, it will only worsen the grudge between you and the sword race. Let me go, I'm willing to plead on your behalf, Jian Changfeng shouted loudly in an attempt to find a way out for himself. However, Chu Kuangren looked at him indifferently. Do you think I need you to plead for me? He raised his hand and pointed it at Jian Changfeng's forehead. No. Jian Changfeng was terrified. But when the sword finger landed on his forehead, the pain he imagined did not come. Only a cold sensation pierced his mind. What's going on? While Jian Changfeng was bewildered, he felt the cold sensation penetrating deeper into his mind. It was as if it wanted to pierce into the depths of his soul. Not good. Although Jian Changfeng did not know what Chu Kuangren was trying to do, he instinctively resisted it. The spiritual power in his body surged as his spiritual thought tried to resist the cold sensation. It was indeed effective. Jian Changfeng sensed that the ice-cold intent had already stopped. Oh, you want to resist? You don't have the ability to. Chu Kuangren snorted as he channeled his mind power. Jian Changfeng could only feel an extremely powerful pressure that was crushing his body. The intense pain hit his nerves, and he felt as if his body was about to be crushed. Under such circumstances, his spiritual power and thoughts were no longer under his control, and his state of mind gradually dissipated. Soul manipulation slave seal. Chu Kuangren let out a low grunt. That cold intent directly pierced into Jian Changfeng's soul and engraved itself on it, forming the golden word, slave. After that, Chu Kuangren withdrew his hand. Jian Changfeng seemed to have understood everything as well. He clutched his head and half-knelt in the void. He looked at Chu Kuangren with an indescribable fear in his eyes. Slave seal. Chu Kuangren had planted a slave seal in his soul. Jian Changfeng could not believe that Chu Kuangren had a technique to enslave souls. Now, his life was in Chu Kuangren's hands. Report to me if anything happens when you return to the swordsman tribe, Chu Kuangren said. Jian Changfeng's expression changed as he tried to resist. However, a sharp pain came from his soul. The more he resisted, the more intense the pain became. In the end, his soul felt like it was being torn apart. Jian Changfeng was drenched in cold sweat, and his face was extremely pale. In the end, he succumbed to the pain that came from his soul and nodded. Yes. He got up and left. Looking at his departing figure, Chu Kuangren murmured, the soul manipulation slave seal is not something you can resist. Soon. The slave seal would slowly change Jian Changfeng's mind, and he would become Chu Kuangren's most loyal slave. This nail that was planted in the swordsman tribe would provide Chu Kuangren with all the information he needed. Swordsman tribe, heh. I don't mind playing with you guys. A cold smile appeared on Chu Kuangren's face as he glanced at the corpses and wraiths that filled the sky. If he left them alone, these wraiths would spread and cause a terrible impact on the surrounding cities. Even the corpses that were corroded by the wraiths would turn into zombies. Although he didn't kill these people, they died because of him. He did not feel guilty because this was a world where the strong preyed on the weak. However, he felt that he could do something. As he lifted his arm, an invisible mind power spread out. Lines of runes condensed in the void and landed on Sky City, turning it into a raging inferno. The raging inferno burned Sky City, igniting countless corpses and mixing them with the remnant wraiths. It burned like a red karmic fire. Chu Kuangren's body was enveloped in a Buddhist light as an ancient Buddha appeared and enveloped the entire Sky City. As the ancient Buddha chanted, countless wraiths were bathed in the Buddhist light. Their ferocious expressions gradually returned to normal before they finally dissipated into the void. After a long while, countless corpses were burned into ashes by the runic fire and dissipated with the wind. The endless wraiths were also purified by the Buddhist light and dissipated. After that, Chu Kuangren left Sky City and returned to Seven Flux City. Not long after, news of what happened in Sky City spread, shocking all the cultivators within a radius of 1 billion miles. Some said that Sky City had turned into a ghost city because an ancient Buddha had descended to enlighten the people. The vast Buddhist light could be seen from 1 million miles away. This rumor even spread to the Putua Temple, the #1 Buddhist organization in the Emperor's Path, attracting the attention of some of the temple's eminent monks. Chapter 531. Inside Seven String City. Chu Kuangren, who had just returned from Night City, returned to the inn and saw a pile of rubble. Murong Xian and Shang Qingxue were nowhere to be found. Just as Chu Kuangren was about to contact them, the owner of the inn immediately rushed up to him, demanding compensation. I don't care. This inn of mine has been open for hundreds of years, and it's well received in Seven String City. Now that you've destroyed it, don't even think of leaving without paying dozens of kilograms of spiritual source. The owner of the inn grabbed Chu Kuangren and refused to let him leave. Not far away, Yang Xiyun, who was worried about Murong Xian's safety, walked up to him. I'll pay for what they've destroyed. Xiyun, don't force yourself. This has nothing to do with us. Next to her, Xi'in's sect master said calmly. She looked at Chu Kuangren with a hint of schadenfreude in her eyes. Look at you guys acting all high and mighty. Let's see what you can do now. Honorable teacher, I owe Brother Murong a favor. Yang Xian frowned, feeling a little disappointed in Xi'in's sect master. So what if he did? Our Xi'in's sect has been serving him for a long time and even gave him a spiritual source. Too bad he didn't want it. Of course, if Brother Chu wishes to take it back now, it's not impossible. Xi'in's sect master looked at Chu Kuangren and said playfully. There's no need for that. I can still afford this amount of spiritual source. Chu Kuangren casually threw out a yin and yang ring that contained about 50 kilograms of spiritual source. To someone as wealthy as Chu Kuangren, this amount was just a drop in the bucket. The owner of the inn took the yin and yang ring, looked at it, and was instantly overjoyed. Then I'll let this matter rest. Goodbye, sect leader Chu. The innkeeper took the spiritual source and left happily. With this amount of spiritual source, he could easily build a few more inns like this one. Beside him, Xi'in's sect master, who saw Chu Kuangren casually taking out dozens of kilograms of spiritual source, did not look too good. However, Chu Kuangren ignored her and immediately contacted Murong Xian and learned that they were now in a forest in Seven String City. He left the scene and went to where Murong Xian and his companion were. Besides them, there was also the Phantom Sword Sentinel. At this moment, the mace sword guard was lying on the ground. Her chest had been pierced by sword chi, and the dense sword chi was wrapped around the wound, sealing her spirit energy. Her soft and charming face was pale, and her weak and helpless appearance could not help but make people feel pity for her. However, Chu Kuangren looked at him calmly and activated his Eye of Revelation. Phantom Sword Guard, one of the members of the Sword Race's Shadow Sword Guard. He possesses the Fallen Darkness body and specializes in the Tao of Darkness. The Fallen Dark physique was one of the 3,000 Daoist physiques, and it was a supreme Daoist physique that was on par with Lan Yu's Holy Radiant physique. Even in the Sword Race, a Daoist physique of this level would make him a top-notch genius. It's surprising that such a Sky Pride would become a member of the Shadow Blade Master, Chu Kuangren said in surprise. For the sake of Lord Daoist, so what if I'm in boundless darkness? The charming sword guard snorted coldly. Oh, Lord Daozi, you mean the sword clan's Daozi, right? Since I've fallen into your hands, then kill me. Don't even think about getting any information about the sword clan or the Dao child from me. The charming sword guard looked like she was determined to die. It would be a waste to kill you. After all, this fallen dark physique is still a supreme Daoist physique. What do you want then? You'll find out soon enough. Chu Kuangren's lips curled into a cold smile. With a flick of his finger, a ray of light shot out from his fingertip and pierced into the defenseless charming sword guard's mind. It was the Soul Mastery Slave Seal. The charming sword guard sensed that something was wrong and frantically tried to resist the slave seal's invasion. However, her strength was far from Chu Kuangren's, and with her heavily injured body, all her resistance was futile. Not long after, the Soul Mastery Slave Seal was deeply engraved into her soul. B****. How dare you try to enslave me? The charming sword guard glared at Chu Kuangren. We'll find out soon enough if I'm dreaming or not. Chu Kuangren said calmly. With a thought, he dispersed the sword chi on the charming sword guard, allowing her spiritual power to recover. Upon seeing that, the charming sword guard channeled her spiritual power and dragged her injured body to attack Chu Kuangren. Shang Qingxue and Murong Xian sneered when they saw that. At her peak, she could not even defeat a spiritual thought clone of Chu Kuangren. Now that she was heavily injured, how could she fight the real charming sword guard? However, Chu Kuangren had no intention of attacking her. Just as the charming sword guard's sword was getting closer and closer to Chu Kuangren, she suddenly felt an intense pain in her mind. It was a pain that originated from her soul. It was the punishment that the slave seal gave her for defying her superiors. The intense pain in her soul made the charming sword guard tremble. She could not help but kneel on the ground, and the sword in her hand dropped to the ground. Since I can't kill you, don't even think of using me against Master Daoist. The charming sword guard was not as weak as she looked. On the contrary, she was very strong-willed. Seeing that she could not kill Chu Kuangren, to prevent herself from harming the swordsman or Jian Daoist, she endured the pain and picked up the long sword on the ground to slash her neck. The blade of the sword cut through her smooth neck, and a large amount of blood gushed out. Chu Kuangren looked at the suicidal charming sword guard and was slightly surprised. "Oh, you're quite loyal to the swordsman and Jian Daoist." He raised his hand and activated the spring breeze healing technique. The surrounding life force gathered and surged into the charming sword guard's body. With the help of this powerful recovery emperor technique, the wound on the charming sword guard's neck rapidly healed. Soon, the charming sword guard was as good as new. She touched her neck and found that there was not even a scar. If not for the blood that gushed out, she would have thought that everything that happened was just a dream. Chu Kuangren had saved her. However, she did not think that he did it out of kindness. She suddenly felt a surge of sorrow in her heart. She did not expect that she could not even die in front of Chu Kuangren. "What are you planning to use me against the swordsman?" the charming sword guard asked coldly. "That's not urgent." Chu Kuangren activated his spiritual thought and a rune gathered around him, forming a collar that locked onto the charming sword guard's neck. In an instant, the charming sword guard felt that the spiritual power in her body was completely locked into her spiritual mound. "Xianxia, I'll leave her in your care. Take her with you for now and don't let her escape," Chu Kuangren said. "All right." Xianxia nodded. Beside her, Murong Xian was puzzled. "Sect leader, this woman is stubborn and would rather die than submit. I'm afraid it'll be very difficult to subdue her." We'll find out soon enough." Chu Kuangren chuckled. The true power of the soul mastery slave seal had yet to be fully revealed. Murong Xian did not ask any more questions. The three of them then led the charming sword guard towards the end of the Emperor's road. However, they did not encounter any great opportunities of fortune along the way. After all, the Emperor's road was extremely vast. Although many opportunities of fortune had begun to appear, it still required a certain amount of luck to encounter them. Moreover, many of the opportunities of fortune were monopolized by the major forces, so it was impossible for ordinary cultivators to get a share of them. Chapter 532. Mystic Sword Guard, do you know of any new opportunities that have appeared recently? Chu Kuangren asked the magic sword guard who was not far away. Murong Xian and Xianxia were stunned when they heard that, and they gave Chu Kuangren a strange look. "Why are you asking this? What would the phantom sword guard say?" The other party probably wanted to hack them into 1,000 pieces. Why would he tell them such important information? As expected, the mystic sword guard coldly snorted, "Do you think that I will tell you about the 1,000 Wonders Paradise?" Murong Xian and Xianxia looked at each other and saw the surprise in each other's eyes. The charming sword guards were even more astonished. What did she just say? Why would she tell Chu Kuangren about the 1,000 strange grottos? What was going on? Oh, the paradise of endless wonders. What kind of opportunity of fortune is this? Chu Kuangren asked again. Impossible. It's absolutely impossible for me to tell you anything about the 1,000 Wonders Paradise. If you want to know, go to the profound Sky Dao province and you'll find out yourself. The charming sword guard shouted. Oh, the Endless Wonders Paradise is located in the mysterious Heavenly Dao Prefecture. Chu Kuangren chuckled. The expression of the magic sword guard gradually became one of fear. What was going on? Why would she uncontrollably reveal the information that Chu Kuangren wanted? What did you do to me? The Mei sword guard asked loudly, what is the use of the slave imprint? Let's go. Let's go to the profound sky prefecture. Chu Kuangren did not explain anything to her. He got up and led Murong Xian and Xianxia towards the direction of the Black Heaven Dao state. On the way, they passed by a large river. The Mei sword guard looked at the river and then at the blood-stained dress on his body. He suddenly felt itchy all over. Chu Kuangren glanced at her and said, "Xianxia, take her to wash up and get a change of clothes." At the side, the enchantment sword guards were a little suspicious. How could this guy be so kind? You look so dirty. Those who don't know might think that we brought a beggar. How embarrassing. Chu Kuangren's words made the magic sword sentinel grit his teeth. This damned fellow, however, just as this thought came to her mind, she couldn't help but feel a stabbing pain in her soul. Damn it, damn it. She could not have any thoughts of disrespecting Chu Kuangren. Under the threat of the slave seal, the magic sword sentinel quickly suppressed any thoughts of disrespecting Chu Kuangren. After a while, Xianxia came back with the Mei Jian guards who had finished washing up. At this time, she had already changed into a black dress. Her black hair reached her waist, and her skin was snow-white and smooth. Her watery eyes were filled with tenderness. One had to admit that the enchantress sword guard was indeed a stunner. She was a stunner that was lethal to men. Chu Kuangren glanced at him and said, "This appearance is somewhat acceptable. It's not too embarrassing." The corner of the mystic sword guard's mouth twitched as he forcefully suppressed the urge to kill Chu Kuangren. The few of them continued to rush in the direction of the profound sky Dao state. In the past few days, Xianxia and Murong Xian were shocked to realize that the mystic sword guard's attitude towards Chu Kuangren was gradually changing. From the initial hatred, to fear, and now, every move they made was filled with a hint of respect for Chu Kuangren. In just a few days, the mystic sword guard's attitude towards Chu Kuangren had changed completely. This shocked Murong Xian and Xianxia. The sect leader is too powerful. It's only been a few days, and the mystic sword guards have already been subdued by him. I didn't even see him do anything. That's right. Besides, the sect leader often taunts her. Could it be that the mystic sword guards like this? I don't think so. Murong Xian and Xianxia were puzzled. They went to ask Chu Kuangren, but he only smiled without saying a word. Just before they were about to reach the profound sky Dao state, the mystic sword guard came before Chu Kuangren with a complicated expression. In the past few days, she had also noticed the changes in herself. However, she had no way of controlling this change. She was initially terrified of this feeling. However, gradually, she became numb to it. Now, she had succumbed to this change. When will you let me go? The mystic sword guard looked at Chu Kuangren and asked. It's almost time. Chu Kuangren looked up at the moon and said, "You can leave tonight." The mystic sword guard was stunned. She did not expect it to be that easy. However, when she heard that she could leave, the mystic sword guard felt a sense of reluctance. "Aren't you afraid that I'll tell the swordsman about you? Will you?" Chu Kuangren retorted. The mystic sword guard was silent for a while before she shook her head. "I won't." "Then that settles it." Chu Kuangren took out a lantern that looked like it was carved from glass. It was the green glass magic lamp that he obtained from the Wu family. "Take this lantern and report back." "This is the green glass magic lamp?" Since the mystic sword guard was here to assassinate Chu Kuangren, she naturally knew about the green glass magic lamp. At the same time, she also knew that this lamp was very important to Jianghu. It seemed to be related to an opportunity of fortune. If this lamp falls into Jianghu's hands, I'm afraid his strength will greatly increase. "Master, why did you do this?" The mystic sword guard was puzzled. However, as soon as she said that, she came to her senses. Did she just call Chu Kuangren master? Not only that. She was still worried about Chu Kuangren's safety, so much so that she placed the importance of this matter above Jianghu. This was something that she would never do in the past. In the past, she placed Jianghu's matter above everyone else's. However, Chu Kuangren's position in her heart had now surpassed Jianghu's. Chu Kuangren glanced at her, puzzled. He secretly lamented that the slave seal was too overbearing. It's just a lamp. What's the harm in giving it to him? Besides, this lamp is related to an opportunity of fortune, so I'll let Jian Daozi search for it on my behalf. Chu Kuangren said. The green glass magic lamp was incomplete, so it would not be of much use to him. Since Jian Daozi had sent people to snatch the magic lamp from him, he probably had the missing part of the lamp's wick. Not only that, but the complete magic lamp was related to a sword emperor. Chu Kuangren would not let such an opportunity of fortune slip by. Since Jian Daozi did not come looking for him now, he would deliver the lamp to him. Jian Daozi, I hope you won't disappoint me and find that opportunity of fortune as soon as possible. Chu Kuangren murmured. The phantom sword sentinel took the green glass magic lamp and handed him a jade scroll. This contains all the information I know about the sword tribe. Besides that, there's also some information about the Thousand Strange Paradise. I hope it will be of help to you, Master. All right, I understand. Chu Kuangren kept the jade scroll. The phantom sword sentinel glanced at Chu Kuangren before his figure flashed, turning into a black shadow that instantly merged into the darkness and disappeared. After the phantom sword sentinel left, Murong Xian and Shang Qingxue walked out. They looked at Chu Kuangren with admiration. F***ck me, sect leader, you're so awesome. The phantom sword sentinel actually called you master just now. That's such a huge change. Do you think your sect leader's methods are fake? Chu Kuangren smiled casually. The next day, the three of them arrived at the Black Heaven Dao State. At the same time, they inquired about the Thousand Strange Paradise and matched the information provided by the phantom sword sentinel. Chapter 533. The Thousand Strange Grotto was not exactly a mysterious place. It was just a secret realm. However, the opportunities of fortune in this secret realm were too great. The Thousand Strange Grotto would only appear once every 30,000 years on the Emperor's path, and every time it appeared, it would be accompanied by a large number of opportunities of fortune. If there was a ranking for opportunities of fortune, then the Thousand Strange Grotto would definitely be in the top 10 of the Emperor's path. However, it had only been 20,000 years since the last time the Thousand Strange Grotto appeared. Logically speaking, it was not the time for the Thousand Strange Grotto to open. However, due to the changes in the Emperor's Mountain and the reappearance of the Emperor's throne, the Thousand Strange Grotto had opened earlier. Only some of the top forces knew about this, and the sky prides from those forces were now preparing to enter the Thousand Strange Grotto to explore. In the swordsman tribe, the Phantom Blade Sentinel had returned and was meeting with the swordsman tribe leader in one of the palaces. Tribe leader, I failed to kill Chu Kuangren. Please punish me. The Phantom Blade Sentinel knelt in front of the swordsman tribe leader and said guiltily. Although the swordsman tribe leader was disappointed that he failed to kill Chu Kuangren, he did not intend to punish the Phantom Blade Sentinel. After all, the Phantom Blade Sentinel was a top-tier sky pride that was second only to Jian Daozi in the swordsman tribe. With a supreme Daoist physique, he was the future pillar of the swordsman tribe. Rise, Mountain Sword Sentinel. Even the Grudge Sword Sentinel failed to kill him. It's good enough that you came back alive. I've underestimated Chu Kuangren. Thank you, tribe leader. The Phantom Blade Sentinel stood up and took out the green glass godly lamp. Tribe leader, although I failed to kill Chu Kuangren this time, I managed to bring back the green glass godly lamp. The swordsman tribe leader's eyes lit up when he heard that. His first reaction was not joy, but confusion. Even the Mountain Sword Sentinel and the Grudge Sword Sentinel could not do it. How did you do it? The swordsman tribe leader stared at the Phantom Blade Sentinel. Meanwhile, the Mystic Blade Sentinel had already prepared an excuse. Speaking of which, it's all thanks to the Grudge Sword Sentinel. He was the one who lured Chu Kuangren away, giving me the opportunity to attack his two disciples. I used those two disciples as a threat to exchange for this green glaze magic lamp. Oh, I see. The clan leader of the sword race looked at the Phantom Sword Guard. However, the other party's expression did not reveal any flaws at all. Then, he asked a few more questions. However, the charmed sword guards were able to answer their questions fluently, successfully dispelling the doubts of the sword race patriarch. Being able to retrieve the green glass magic lamp is already a great achievement. Mystic Sword Guard, what reward do you want? Tell me. I am a sword guard of the sword race. It is my duty to work for the sword race. I dare not ask for rewards. Ha, you are too humble. Tell me, what do you want? As long as the sword clan has it, I will satisfy you. Actually, the charmed sword guard has admired Daoist for a long time. I hope that I can follow by Daoist's side and do his bidding. The mystic sword guard hesitated for a moment, and when he mentioned Daoist, a look of longing appeared in his eyes. Upon hearing this, the sword race patriarch laughed out. Actually, I have long known that you joined the shadow sword guards for the sake of Daoist. Since you have such intentions, how can I not fulfill your wish? Daoist's shadow guards are still lacking one person. You shall fill that gap then. Other than that, I shall reward you with a black cloud iron beast's beast energy. This item complements your fallen darkness body and will be of great help to you. Many thanks, clan leader. At this moment, a figure walked into the main hall. This person wore a luxurious golden robe. His brows were sharp and his eyes were bright. There was a biting cold aura circulating around him. Oh, we just talked about Daoist and here he is. The sword race patriarch looked at the young man. This man was none other than Daoist of the sword race. However, the charmed sword guard beside him realized that something was wrong. Something's wrong. This aura is somewhat different from Lord Daoist. As expected of me, Your senses are right. This body before you is indeed not my true self. It's a clone. However, even though it's a clone, I obtained this clone by chance. It possesses 80% of my strength. Daoist looked at the charmed sword guard and smiled. It seemed like he had known the charmed sword guard for a long time. Lord Daoist, your methods are brilliant. I'm impressed. The charmed sword guard revealed a suitable look of admiration. My true self is still in closed-door meditation when the Thousand Strange Grottos opens. I plan to let this clone go. Although it only has 80% of my strength, it's more than enough to defeat the younger generation of the Emperor's path. Daoist said proudly. As expected of my sword race's Daoist. With such boldness, you'll definitely become an emperor in the future and rule over all living beings. The sword race's Daoist smiled. Then, his eyes lit up when he saw the sacred green glass lamp in the sword race patriarch's hand. This is the sacred green glass lamp. That's right. This is the sacred green glass lamp that the charmed sword guard brought back. Have you killed Chu Kuangren? The sword race's Daoist said as he looked at the charmed sword guard with admiration. In the past, whenever he showed such an expression, the charmed sword guard would be overjoyed. However, now, the charmed sword guard looked dejected. It's my fault for not being able to kill Chu Kuangren. She then repeated what she had told the sword race's leader. Looks like this Chu Kuangren is quite interesting. If I can meet him in the Thousand Wonders Paradise, I'll definitely meet him. Beside her, the charmed sword guard could not help but roll her eyes. Come on, even if your real body is here, I'm afraid you won't be able to withstand more than a few attacks from Master. Now that you're only a clone with 80% of your strength, you'll be lucky if Master doesn't kill you with a single slap. Where does your confidence come from? I'm sure Mei has suffered a lot to retrieve the sacred green glass lamp for me. Don't worry, if I meet Chu Kuangren, I'll definitely avenge you. Thank you, Master Daoist. There's no need for such courtesy between us. The charmed sword guard smiled. He and the charmed sword guard had known each other for a long time, and he knew that the charmed sword guard had a deep relationship with him. She even joined the Shadow Blade Guards because of him. He was very proud of that. After all, how many people in this world would be able to receive such a dedication from the mystic sword guard, a daughter of the heavens? However, although the charmed sword guard had a deep relationship with him, he had only treated her as a tool to help him manage the swordsman tribe. He Jian Daozi, already had someone in his heart. Now that the Thousand Wonders Paradise has appeared, I believe Ningyu will be there too. It's been 60 years since I last saw her. Jian Daozi had a nostalgic look on his face. The charm sword guard's expression changed when she heard the name Ningyu. She then said, "Tribe leader, Master Daozi, I'll take my leave first." "All right, you may leave." The swordsman tribe leader nodded. When the charm sword guard was far away, the swordsman tribe leader said, "Jian Daozi, you know that the charm sword guard likes you, yet you purposely brought up other girls in front of her. Aren't you making her unhappy? Aren't you afraid that she'll blame you?" "Heh, I'm only doing this to remind her that I already have someone I like. Besides, don't you think that the more unobtainable something is, the more attractive it is? To me, the more I can't get her, the more she'll want it. From then on, she'll never be able to escape from my control." Hearing this, a look of realization appeared on the face of the sword clan leader as he laughed. Jian Daozi's methods have truly opened my eyes. Chapter 534. Black Heaven Dao State, where the Thousand Strange Grotto was located. According to the information provided by the mystic sword guards, Chu Kuangren, Shang Qingxue, and Murong Xian had arrived at the mountain range where the Thousand Strange Grotto was located. Although the Thousand Strange Grotto had yet to fully reveal itself to the world, many people had already arrived. Countless sky prides were wandering around the entire mountain range. Even the weakest of these sky prides were comparable to honorable supremes or even sages. Some of the top sky prides were even on par with the older generation. As for the forbidden sky prides, Chu Kuangren had yet to see any of them. There are so many of them, and none of them are to be underestimated. Murong Xian looked at the surrounding sky prides and said solemnly. In the outside world, Murong Xian was one of the top sky prides. Even the Empyrean walkers of the past were no match for him. However, on the Emperor's Road, where sky prides were everywhere, he was not considered one of the best despite being outstanding. Only by mastering the incinerating divine art to the highest level can I fight against the top forbidden sky prides. Murong Xian murmured. Beside him, Chu Kuangren seemed to have heard his words. He smiled and did not ask any questions. He knew that Murong Xian had his own opportunity of fortune. "Sect leader, when will the Thousand Strange Grotto open?" Shang Qingxue asked curiously. "It should be another 2 days. When the Thousand Strange Grotto opens, there will be a phenomenon," Chu Kuangren said. He was not in a hurry. Then, he activated his treasure locating skill. The fluctuations of various treasures within a 10,000-kilometer radius were clearly reflected in his mind. "There are some decent treasures in this mountain range that will be helpful to both of you." Chu Kuangren took out a jade scroll and recorded the information of some treasures into it before handing it to the two. "Here, you guys can go look for them." "All right." Murong Xian and Shang Qingxue already knew that Chu Kuangren had some kind of technique that allowed him to sense treasures, so they were not surprised. Before the Thousand Strange Grotto opened, the two of them were one step ahead of the others in searching for treasures. With Chu Kuangren's treasure locating skill, the two of them managed to find many treasures in 2 days. On this day, Murong Xian found a supreme herb. The supreme herb was growing at the mouth of a volcano and was emanating an incredibly strong fire-based Daoist rhyme. "With this herb, my divine art of burning heaven can almost step into the 5th level. I'm one step closer to the 7th level." Murong Xian's eyes lit up as he quickly approached the crater of the volcano. As for the intense volcanic aura, it was like a burst of warm air that had no effect on him. However, just as he was about to pluck the herb, a spear energy suddenly swept towards him with an overbearing aura. Upon seeing this, Murong Xian activated his Crimson Sun Daoist physique and the crimson longsword in his hand abruptly slashed out. It was a weapon he had obtained after entering the Emperor's Road. It was called Burning Sun. The Burning Sun collided with the spear energy with a loud bang. A terrifying force exploded and Murong Xian was forcefully pushed back several hundred feet. He looked into the distance and saw a young man in a golden robe standing in the air with a long spear in his hand. He exuded a domineering aura. "That herb is mine." "You, scram," the young man said coldly to Murongxian. When Murongxian heard this, an arrogant look appeared on his face. "I was wondering who it was." "So it's you, Xiao Jingchen." Xiao Jingchen was originally ranked third on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard. He was also the owner of the Heavenly Golden Imperial Physique. It was a very powerful physique. Among the 3,000 physiques, it was ranked even higher than the exquisite 9 Orifices Sword Heart. However, Murongxian was not afraid of him at all. "Oh, you know about the Soaring Dragon leaderboard? Looks like you're from the Firmament Star. With such strength, which Soaring Dragon leaderboard Skypride are you?" Xiao Jingchen looked at Murongxian and said in surprise. Murongxian from the Black Heaven sect. When he heard the name Black Heaven sect, Xiao Jingchen seemed to have thought of something. A hint of fear appeared in his eyes as he looked around. "Is Chu Kuangren from the Black Heaven sect here too?" "It doesn't matter if the sect leader is here or not. If you want this herb too, you'll have to defeat me first." Murongxian held the burning sun in his hand and a hint of battle intent appeared in his eyes. He wanted to see how big the gap was between him and a top-notch skypride like Xiao Jingchen. Was it possible for him to defeat him? "Humph, with just you?" Xiao Jingchen looked around and was relieved when he did not see Chu Kuangren. In the entire Firmament Star, he was not afraid of anyone except Chu Kuangren. "Me?" Murongxian took a step forward and a scorching wave of air erupted from his body. It was as if the entire sky was going to be incinerated. "Humph, I'll show you the power of the Heavenly Golden Imperial Physique." Xiao Jingchen snorted. He lifted his arm and unleashed a punch. Majestic spiritual power converged to form a giant yellow fist mark. When the fist mark was unleashed, it was as if the sky was going to collapse. When Murongxian saw that, he swung the burning sun sword in his hand and a crimson-red sword chi surged out along with a majestic wave of fire. When the two energies collided, a deafening explosion erupted. The entire volcano stirred up a large amount of dust. Such a commotion naturally attracted the attention of many people. What a powerful energy fluctuation. Who's fighting? This kind of energy, it's at least a top-notch sage ruler. It might even be close to a boundary emperor. Let's go and take a look. If it's a battle of skyprides, we have to pay attention to such a skypride. Everyone rushed towards the crater of the volcano. Meanwhile, in the distance, Chu Kuangren, who was resting with his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes. "Oh, Murongxian is fighting someone. This kind of energy, it's him." At the crater of the volcano, the battle between Murongxian and Xiao Jingchen had reached its climax. Both of them were top-notch skyprides with extraordinary combat strength, especially Xiao Jingchen. The Heavenly Golden Imperial Physique was ranked second among the 3,000 physiques. Its power was so strong that few physiques in the past and present could match it. Coupled with his sage ruler cultivation level, the strength that he unleashed was close to a boundary emperor. However, what shocked Xiao Jingchen was that he could not defeat Murongxian quickly. His opponent's physique was only the Crimson Sun Daoist physique. Although it was a top-notch Daoist physique, it was ranked at the bottom among the top-notch Daoist physiques. There was no way it could be compared to his Heavenly Golden Imperial Physique. However, the combat strength that Murongxian unleashed was not any weaker than his. This discovery shocked him greatly. What's going on with this guy? Where did he get such terrifying strength from? Wait, it's not a Daoist physique, it's a technique. This guy's cultivation technique is too advanced, and it complements his Daoist physique. That's why he has such combat strength. Xiao Jingchen had good eyesight, so he soon noticed something fishy. He was shocked because his own cultivation technique was also extraordinary. It was an emperor's scripture. However, Murongxian could still fight on par with him even though his Daoist physique was at a disadvantage. This meant that Murongxian's cultivation technique was of a higher grade than his. Murong Xian must have cultivated an emperor's scripture as well, and it must be a top-notch one even among the emperor's scriptures. As more and more people came to watch the battle, Xiao Jingshan was starting to get anxious because he still could not defeat Murong Xian. The heavenly golden imperial physique was fighting against a crimson sun Daoist physique that was far inferior to him. Was that not implying that he was useless? Looks like this is the only way. You're tuning into the Carefree Valley YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.